Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the German Grand Prix, the FSR German Grand Prix. We are back after a 6-week break, and it's great to see everybody back again. And it's been a long time, hasn't it? It always seems a long time, does the summer break, but we're back, and Q1 is about to get underway, and it's going to be a great weekend, I'm sure. Hockenheim, of course, a very popular track with many of the drivers. We're going to see their hits already. That's what we like to see. Starters you mean to go on. But interestingly, in practice, Morgan Moran again has been fastest. Bono Huis, though, needs to keep an eye on keeping close to Moran because he was behind Van Starkenburg and Thoman in the practice session, which is going to be interesting. Yuri Thoman competing in World Championship today, having won both races in Ace yesterday. He did a double, which is quite a difficult thing to do. Mohamed Patel has also done that this year, but it's not an easy thing to do at all, because of course they have the reverse grid in race 2, so he here this will to watch out for him. And alongside me, as per usual, is Chris de Jong. A good afternoon to you, Chris, and it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been a long time. Thanks for the warm welcome once more. It has been 7 weeks actually since we've last been here, and yeah, today is promising to be. It doesn't matter. But today's promising to be a nice day of racing. We already seen the Pro Series race a few hours ago, and that was just spectacular to say the least. Now we got the big famous name right in front of us yet again, and what a show it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and we've seen some crazy racing here this weekend. Hockenheim is really a track that you really throw the car at it, particularly turn 1, Chris. And we talk about the inside of turn 1 a little bit because there is a massive bump on the inside of turn 1. If you try to cut it too much, you're going to end up having an almighty accident, aren't you?
I haven't actually drove this track, unfortunately. I did some laps today with a keyboard, but I'm sure that didn't give the best feedback possible. So no, but I think for only that the track isn't supposed to be won't supposed to be catch out a lot of these drivers, certainly because they are the best we have. So no, I don't think people get a lot of incidents in terms of track difficulty, but we might see some incidents on track on lap 1, turn 1. I mean, that's really tricky to go alongside with one another, and well, I'm sure everyone here is freshed up with new blasting energy and wanting to prove themselves to the world and to us. And well, we might see some tension going into the first lap for sure.
Yeah, Bono Huis, interestingly, and you can often read a lot into language of how when cars go out. He was the first driver to set a lap time, which is very unusual for the fastest drivers, but he was. I mean, we know from Formula 1 that, generally speaking, your faster drivers go out a little bit later, as Morgan Moran has done. He's not across the line to complete his first lap yet, but Bono down in 5th already, Chris, with a 1:15.7. Not a particularly great lap from Bono.
Yeah, well, Bono in recent history has had a lot of problems in qualifying and finding a lap. I remember the Grand Prix 4 minutes to go, he still didn't have a lap. So I think he decided to change that up a little bit and just had a banker lap already. And of course everyone is doing sort of banker laps right now. You want to have that early lap in, but a lot of drivers are really, I mean, close to each other. The entire top 8 is within 2/10 of each other, so that's promising.
Yeah, I think Yuri Thoman is going to be a real contender here today, and interestingly, he could set FSR history because in the past we've had a driver win 2 races in a weekend. I think Rasmus did it at Malaysia a few years ago when he was in the and World Championship as well. I believe he won both, but of course we've never had a driver do 3 in a weekend because now, of course, Ace has 2 races and he won them both yesterday.
But what's his name again? It has been 7 weeks.
The other precision guy won in World Championship or Ace?
Ace of World Championship, of course.
In World Championship with Bono.
No, next to Bono.
I see what you mean. Yeah, that's. I'm not quite sure actually. We might have to see if we can find out.
Ivar.
Yeah, Calamaze is not here at the moment.
What happened to him?
No idea. Maybe he is Finnish, Calamaze. So knowing other Finnish drivers, maybe he's just not woken up yet from hibernation.
No. Well, maybe he got sacked. But come on, with a 15.5, definitely up to pace there.
I will try and find that out, Chris. That's what we'll say for that. Jiri Toman, though, very fast at the moment. He's second behind Morgan Moran, but only a few hundredths of a second separating them, which just shows that Morgan's not got it all his own way this weekend. It's going to be very tight.
Oh, well, it has been really tight this season, although Morgan has had the edge over the others in the first races a little bit more than he has had the last few races. Even though 1.5 tenths to spare between Morgan, Moran and Toman. But it's very close indeed, and I'm surprised to see Bono having to take this much effort. He actually aborted the last lap, but he's coming around onto start finish right now, and let's see what he did right here. Alright, so he goes to first place with a 15.381. Definitely a nice flyer in right there, and behind him is Morgan Moran, already back for more.
Yes, and he gained most of that, Bono, in the second sector, which he said a 36.7 his first lap round. It was only a 36.9, so gained another 2 tenths in that second sector. And Toman now goes up to Moran third for the moment. Of course, oh, and Carlos Martin, what a lap that is, 1:15.373. And we now have 6 hundredths of a second, in fact, covering the top 4.
Yeah, and this is awesome stuff from Carlos Martin, wanting to prove him here himself. He actually started in 24th position in the Canadian Grand Prix, and mind you, he got to the podium that time. Imagine what he will do if he will actually start from pole position, although it's very early in the weekend to suspect such things. But he's definitely showing us that he's up there.
Yes. And at the moment, just looking at the drivers on the bubble, we've got Dianca Stadanov and Martin Gosb down there in 9th and 10th place. There's a bit of a worry for them, although there is actually a 2.5 tenth gap back from 10th to 11th at the moment. But whether we're looking further back, just see if Morgan Moran now goes fastest with a 1:15.273. Wow. That is an excellent lap. We may, I don't think we'll see a 1:14, but they are edging so close to it, and I didn't think they'd get anywhere near. So really impressive stuff from these drivers. But yeah,
definitely.
Just looking at who might improve that's outside at the top 10 at the moment. Kolarec has been known to get himself into the top 10, so that's a possibility. He's not in the moment. It's Marcel van der Linden, possibly. Van der Linden tends to be a little bit more of a race driver than a qualifying driver, though, Chris, doesn't he?
Yeah, true. And who also seems to be a qualifying driver is, of course, Patrick de Wit, who finds himself now in 21st position. Goes out on track once more with only 1 or 2 attempts to spare. But 1.5 seconds from de Wit to Moran in first place is definitely not what we've been expecting from Patrick, at least. A lot of other drivers who try to catch in 10th place. Remember, he won at Imola, I believe, and he is now half a second shy of first place Morgan Moran, but that half a second covers 9 other drivers, so it's really close.
Well, Morgan and Carlos, the 2 Netrex cars, are perfectly happy with their laps because although Carlos is just coming out again now, but they were both in the pits. I think Morgan Moran might just sit in the pits and stay there now. He knows that's going to make the top 10. I don't think everybody's going to improve half a second.
Well, they could do a Q2 lap though. They could do a Q2 lap. Morgan is going out once more.
Yeah, they could do, I suppose. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Get a little bit of gives them an extra lap to get into the zone. If you like, out on track at the moment. It's absolutely packed out there as Van Starkenburg has actually just come back in the pits, but mostly they are all out on track, which means that it is very crowded. It's not one of the longest tracks this either, so that does mean that there isn't as much space, but when there's 26 cars out there, you always seem to find one when you least want it.
True. And Bono here going across start-finish line, definitely giving everything he's got, and it gives him the first place for now. And he definitely won that there in the last sector. His previous last sectors were both 23.0.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that was a cut, though. That was definitely all 4 wheels off the circuit.
Yeah. No.
Does it's been something that's been confusing for a lot of the year. I don't.
He was on the curbs. That was not a cut. He was on the curb.
Right, I thought that the front right wheel left the curb for a moment, but I think you're right.
No.
Actually, looking at the replays, it should be
good
all
job
right.
of Bono there.
In anything, if anything, if you look at the amount of dust he kicked up, you'd have thought it'd have lost him time rather than gained him it. So it's surprising that he still managed to get a lap time which is 4 thousandths of a second between him and Morgan Moran. I don't think you can even get a feather between them in that kind of distance. It's nothing at all, is it?
Morgan Moran now fly. And before Pride, of course, and definitely carries a lot of speed and determination through turn 1.
Let's have a look at the first sector then. Bono Huis was 16.673 in this first sector. Let's see where Morgan is. It's a 16.642, so he's 300ths up from the first sector. That's a good lap so far from Morgan. This is a really important braking zone here, Chris.
Indeed, but he's a 10th down of his personal best, so he's looking really sharp for this one. If he can keep it together, he might get the bragging rights for Q1 here. Bono has already gone out again, but it's just a general repetition because not enough. Flag is already crossed and he's on an outlap. Morgan, however, in sector 2, let's have a look. 35.7 to beat, and he's 35.7 once again. So even on this last sector, if he can get 1/10 more, he will definitely take Bono, or just tie even with his last sector. But
let's see, here he comes through the final 2 corners, and he doesn't use all the curb there, which is quite surprising, and he's a lot neater than Bono. But let's have a look across the line. It's a 1:15.105, wow. And there you go.
22.7 last sector. Oh my God, French. That Frenchman.
Absolutely, and well, France haven't got many F1 drivers of recent years here about in sim racing, at least. Morgan Moran out on top, 1:15.105. Van Starkenburg moves up to 5th, but he was already safely in the top 10 anyway. So let's give you a rundown of the top 10. And one person that I particularly want to give a shout out to is Jone Simoncic, who has managed to get the Ghost Speed car into the top 10. And Ghost Speed, as we know, have not been having a fantastic season, so that's good. And Bono Huis, Carlos Martin, Yuri Toman, Rob Van Starkenburg, Jack Keefley, Peter Berliak, Jone Simoncic, and Dadanov Gosby are your top 10. And then there was a bit of a gap back to El Presidente, who qualified in 11th, John-Eric Saxon. Interesting with Patrick de Witt, Chris, we were talking about he's down in 21st, I think he's qualified, which for Patrick is not good. What was worrying was that his lap times were quite consistent as well, so it would suggest that he can't go faster than that.
Well, maybe it's just not his week, maybe it's not his weekend. I mean, there could be multiple suggestions for that, but yeah, it's unfortunate for him, but it's nice to see some new names into the top 10. Thomas. Well, happy to see Peter Berliak back again, to be honest.
Yeah, it's good, and I've been reliably informed that Ivar Calamise is on holiday, so while the rest of the drivers are driving around here at Hockenheim getting hot, he's getting hot, sunning it up in Barbados or wherever he is.
Calamise, he's German, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think I may have called him Finnish earlier on. I apologise for that. Yes.
Oh, well, if he's German, we will probably make some nice sausages in his shed somewhere. I don't know what Germans like to do.
Oh,
but
a bit of stereotyping going on there.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I like tulips too. I'm Dutch. But
he's Estonian, by wrong. He's a GP cos. He's Estonian.
I'm not touching that with a 9-feet ball, to be honest.
Well, I can't think of any jokes about that anyway.
No. Funny fact, by the way, about Estonia, they actually have more women than men living there. So, if you are getting lonely as a man, Estonia is the answer, right?
And if you want to get in contact with Chris de Jong, you'll find him at PO Box Tallinn in Estonia.
Oh no, fuck my life, no. Either way, let's get back to racing. We have an awesome Q2 coming up for you guys, and it's Martin Gosby who's about to take to bite the head of it. And why don't you take us through it, Thomas?
And Gosby then on the lap to turn 1. This is the bump on there on the inside that we talked about. Kicks up a little bit of dust on the exit, but it looked pretty clean as he goes now towards this difficult braking point at turn 2. Turn 3 is a very sweeping corner. You accelerate all the way through it, and that's already the end of sector 1. And it was pretty decent sector 1, but I don't think it's the fastest we'll see. Martin Gosby, of course, 10th in Q1, so we're probably not expecting him to be challenging for the pole position. Hairpin, I was about to say, it was very neat. He got very squirrely on the exit there. The car just giving up the grip. It seems to be the part of the circuit where there is lacking grip a little bit this weekend. There have been a lot of out-of-shape moments in that hairpin through the races, and Gosby again gets out of shape as he comes towards the end. of Sector 3, which is a 36.0 again. I think we're going to see better than that. And again, out of shape, really fighting for grip this weekend. Seems to be a very low grip circuit. Certainly that's why we're using the soft and super soft tyres here this weekend, because of the lack of grip. Just need them. Otherwise it just wouldn't work at all, wouldn't the circuit. As he comes across the line then, it's a 1:16.124. It's not bad for a Q2 lap, to be honest. Let's not forget they are running now higher ducts and radiators, and so that's a decent lap.
I don't think the ducts will be that high. I mean, there's a lot of balance in the circuit compared to braking and accelerating. But I agree with you, Chris.
But I was told by Morgan Moran that the ducts and brakes and radiators did seem to have more of an effect here this weekend in terms of time.
All right. Then it's correct. For now, though, it's Dian Kostadinov who's trying to raise the honor of Aventa SimRacing, his own team. So the team boss here racing his lungs out for his own team. Doesn't find the correct braking here into the hairpin. Nevertheless, doesn't lose anything on traction. His sector 2, though. Let's see what he can pull out of the head here, because I know Dion for a fact he likes to get a good result in, and he was close so many times, but never cherry on the cake. So it's 36.3 second sector. So going stable to the complex here. If you add up his times, I think it would be a close call for Martin, but he's a little bit off track there. Finds himself a little bit more curved than he would hoped for, and he crosses the line in a 16.7 actually. So that's way off Martin Kostadinov.
Certainly is, and it's an awful lot slower than he went Q1, so maybe Morgan's right, although I suspect that that's down to mistakes as well. Simoncic is about to line anyway.
Flies through turn 1.
Oh, he does, but I think he just kept it on the track there. I think he did manage to keep two wheels on the circuit. I would like Simoncic's helmet. I think it's very nice, very different, orange and green. They're all out of shape again. Oh, dear me. Well, it's more of a wrestling match than a lap at the moment for Simoncic. He's been fighting that wheel all the way through turns 1, 2 and 3. Down into the... I dread to think what's going to happen at the hairpin. Here we go. That's actually quite tidy compared to the rest of the lap. And especially if you consider that's this weekend in the corner where most drivers have been struggling for grip. There's another one actually just at the as we come through this arena section. Just going to come into the corner now as it cuts across. Has also been another one where drivers have been struggling for grip. Let's have a look at the Sector 2 time. It's 36.0, so pretty much matches Martin Gosby. Doing it in a very different fashion, though, I think it's fair to say, as he comes now through this final section. Quite narrow, this section, actually. It's very easy to make a mistake and run off track here.
He doesn't seem comfortable on the throttle, though.
No, he doesn't at all, does he? He's been out of shape consistently, and he's not able to put full throttle on much at all. As he comes across the line, he's fastest though, 1:16.063. But you're right, Chris, 100% throttle. I think he only had it on for 2-3 times around the lap because he seemed to be fighting for grip all the time, and that's something we're going to see. We've seen a lot of this weekend.
No, and I'm really curious about the next guy in the contention here, Peter Briljak. Haven't seen him for a while. I was informed he did a lot of races in GPVWC or whatever it's called, and won those races with ease. Now he's back for a real challenge though in the Formula Sim.
Touche.
Well, what touche? It's truth. They can live with that. And I'm really curious what Peter Briljak can show here. 16.7 up to the first sector, so 1/10 down on or up on Jerry Simoncic, however you want to look at it. Doesn't find of the hair. Let's see if it compromises his lap. Carries nice speed through here. And this is the part where you talked about it earlier, what can make or break your lap if you just slide a little bit too wide on those curves. Doesn't seem to be any problem for Peter though. Tidy through there. Now into the complex. Peter Briljak here for Twister Racing. What will he do? Carries nice speed through here. Now last corner to go. Early on, what can you do, Peter? P1 for this moment, 15.896.
And it was nice to
works
see
out.
him. It was nice to see him put in such a clean lap as well, Chris. Because in Q2 he has struggled with that a little bit this year. There's 2 or 3 times he's not completed the lap. So nice to see him complete it, and it was a very clean lap as well. Jack Keithley then is the next driver through for GT Omega Racing, and Jack's had an up and down season. He's had some races where he's been very close to the front. He's had other races where he's been very much in the mid-pack. Some of that down to bad luck, some of it maybe down to not being so good on the weekend, but 16.8 especially not on a Q2 setup, so looking okay so far. It comes down to the hairpin. Here we go, into the hairpin, heavy braking. See the red sidewall tyres there, one of the compounds this weekend. A little bit of an oversteer moment on the edge of the hairpin, but he very neatly corrects that, and now heads into the arena section. Looking very tidy in the main here from Keithley.
Keeping it together.
Right, so Peter Berliak was a 35.8 in the second sector, I believe. Keithley's a 35.990, so a little bit slower than Berliak through that second sector. Around the final couple of hairpins, really gives the tyres a work, does this part of the track. And this is the problem that they've been having. The tyres are not actually lasting very long, but they needed to use these ones because of the grip levels. 1:16.089, Keithley goes into 3rd place.
Yeah, definitely tidy through those last few bends. I noticed a lot of drivers don't take a wide line through those last 2 corners. You know, if I see Morgan, he's using every inch of the track in order to get the best possible speed. Just cut it a little bit, so to speak. Now
Yeah,
Rob
very different styles.
Rob van Starkenburg on a flyer already, crossing the first sector, and he does so in 16.6. So that's really fast. 1/10 down of Peter Berliak, 1/10 faster that is. And let's see what he can do. Obviously, after China, I really hope Rob can deliver for himself and pull out a victory or something, because I mean that's one guy who I really think deserves it. Either way, coming on the sector here, had a brilliant first sector. Now it's time to put the next piece in, 36.0, so leaves a 10th there compared to Peter. Now it's all coming down to these last few corners. Looks really stable through this sector. Excuse me. And here again, doesn't go to the furthest part of the corner there. Let's see if it compromises his lap. Rob van Starkenburg, MA1 15.9, and doesn't get time from Peter. So second place on this moment for him.
And what Morgan Moran said seems to be absolutely true, because we saw a lot of drivers down in the mid to low 115s. They're all in the high 115s, and most of them in the ones.
Yeah, so but we still have to see the top 3.
That's very true. But there was only 3 tenths between all of them, apart from Gosby, I think, in the first qualifying session. So we'll
now we
see
got
anyway.
Yuri Toman to bite off that head from precision. I mean, these next few 4 drivers, I'm curious to see if they can get underneath the 15.5s.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. We'll see what the pole position time is. It was a decent first sector in time. He was a couple of tenths slower than Van Starkenburg was in that first sector, but that was an unbelievable first Van Starkenburg then, having done so well in sector 1, lost a bit in sector 2. So this could be where Toman gains a bit back on. Yeah, absolutely. And
position looking more stable in the sector 2.
36.0 though, it's not great. It's still slower than he was very close there to ending up the gravel, wasn't he? He just left nothing on the table there as he came through that into the arena section. It was very close, but he is neat through the final couple of corners, and he comes towards the line. What's it going to be? It's a 16.0, so Berliak's still on pole at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's the best that Yuri could do at that moment, and he should be happy he's in front of SimRacing and Keithley with only half a tenth to spare. So I think it puts him in a nice position. Okay, now it's time for Carlos Martin, of course, from Crown 7 Networks, flying through this first set of corners. Keeps it on the track though. Carries a lot of speed through it. Let's see what his first sector time will be. He's obviously aiming at a 16.6. That would be tremendous. Carlos Martin.
I'm going out on a limb.
16.7.
Testing times. I reckon he might be a shot for pole here. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, let's hope so. But he is a little bit down, a few thousandths down of Peter Briljak's time, but has a reasonable first sector. Now it's all about keeping the nerves on the road, literally, and trying to perform okay. Coming down to this braking sector, brake discs red glowing hot, but carries a lot of speed through here. Let's see how that turns out. 35.794 in sector 2. Oh, it goes off, he loses the car. Carlos is done here.
I'm ever so sorry, Carlos. I think I may have just...
He was having a great sector, but nevertheless, he can keep it together.
He's going to finish. He's going to finish the lap for pride. Here we go.
Nah, I don't think so. I think he will pull up in the pits, but he will start in 10th place though.
If he pulls into the pits, yes, he could do that, but somebody might not finish their lap. There are still 2 drivers to go, but he is going to pull into the pits. So
Morgan and Bob will not make any mistakes, I think. But that's really unfortunate for Carlos. I really hope to see him high in the list, because he had such a great Q1. Bono, however, challenging the limits of track, doing so successfully.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see. And Bono actually knows he cut, and that's what I just said. That he cut the first corner and he knew that, so he abandoned the lap, which is very. That's what I just said about Carlos Martin. Immediately, it was proven if he'd have completed the lap, he would have now been ahead of Weiss, but he won't be because he didn't.
No, indeed, and well, no, he should be. He completed than Bono. So
well, according to the timing screens,
yeah, but
Martin's
I don't care about timing screens.
Is 9th. So unless let's hope the director notices that, because otherwise they're going to be starting with Martin behind Weiss. But yes, you're right. According to rules and of general motor racing, he should be. But I suspect, unless we'll have to see how that one works out. The director will sort it out, I'm sure.
Either way, I was wrong once again. I said Bono wouldn't make any mistakes, and yet here we are.
We're just going to have to maybe just keep silent for this. We're not
for
any
Morgan.
problems.
No, I think Morgan will definitely keep it together. So here we go. No, but Morgan here, in this exact corner, he's much wider. He takes a much wider entry towards the next. And I think it's the part where he gets the difference. Nevertheless, here we go. Ooh, had to lift a little bit there. Not optimal.
No, it certainly wasn't.
And finds himself with trouble to see what his sector time is. 16.794. So exactly the same sector time as Carlos had, almost. Steady through the apex. And if Morgan can keep this together, you should assume he will take pole position here, and he can deal a massive blow towards Bono his standings in the Driver Championship. Because he's obviously starting or play.
It's not a great middle sector though. It's down on Brilljak. Brilljak could be on pole here.
Oh no, the GPWVC will laugh so hard at my comment earlier.
Now this is going to be interesting. Can he do it, Chris? What do you think?
He has to. Come on, French guy. Come on.
Here we go. Yes, he has. And that last sector was amazing. 1:15.576, because I think overall he was down on Brilljak after sector 2, and then he just nailed it.
And that's what I mean with the last sector. He takes such a wider entry in those last 2 corners, and that definitely gives him the massive retreat over everyone else. So 15.5 for Morgan, 7.6 actually. So yeah, great.
So then, well, Bono Weiss, 22 points behind Morgan around before this weekend. He had narrowed the gap considerably, you might remember, because of Morgan's mistake in the last race, but that was impressive from Bono and from Morgan.
Certainly was.
And Bono running off the track has really helped Morgan Moran, because now Huis is going to have to come from 9th during the race at least.
And I'm really curious to see what will happen between Bono and Carlos, because those two drivers were certainly meshed against each other, this qualify session at least. And in terms of race pace, it's a little bit of a touch in the dark, but I mean, those are two drivers who can actually fight up towards a podium position, I'm sure. And I'm very eager to see them do so.
Yeah, and by the way, at the moment, Carlos Martin is due to start behind Bono Huis, according to what the director has just set up. I think that he should be starting in front because he completed some of the lap, but I don't know. It's a strange one, that.
Yeah, Carlos Martin actually asking he will start on prime, so he's saying he wasn't that comfortable on the option compound, so he will definitely start on the softer compound, on the soft compound instead of the super soft. Let's put it like that. Taking a risk there.
Now here's a question for you, Chris. We'll talk strategy for a moment, because in the races that we've had so far this weekend, even in the sprint race in Ace yesterday, the soft tyres, that's the hard compound primes, are not lasting very well, even through that shorter race. I know at the end of the race, some of the drivers that was trying to stay till the end on them did 121s, 122s. Wow. Near the end of the race. It was like 5 seconds off what they had been doing earlier on. And we could see maybe anywhere as much as 4 stops here this afternoon, don't you think?
Whew, I don't know. I should be. I think
well, that's only a
really
30% race distance, and the hard compound not lasting very well, and also the softer compound here is quite a lot faster than the harder compound.
Yeah, so we got how many laps here? 60.
It's 67, I think.
67. So.
And they were, well, I mean, judging by that, if they used the harder compound the whole way through, they'd need 3 stops. Well, they could maybe make it on 2, but it'd be a massive struggle because they only last 20 laps, so, or they did do yesterday. So you would suspect they'd need 3 stops, even if they use mostly the hard compound. So maybe somebody will try and compound and do 3 stops and just 1 stint on the softer tyre. Maybe then you could make it on 3 stops, but otherwise I think you're going to have to do 4.
Yeah, I think you're right though, having made those calculations. And if you count 15 laps per stint, then it still leaves 7 laps around. And well, definitely the super soft compound will wear off in only a matter of 7-8 laps with these fuel loads. So
I want to tell you something else as well, and this is really unfortunate for Carlos. The times that he did yesterday in testing on Q2 would have on pole. So it's a real shame that he's in that final sector, because he may have challenged Morgan at the top, and that would have been really interesting to see somebody so close to Moran. It would have been nice to see, wouldn't it?
So what did he do in the public list?
I was this with him later on, but I think he did a 15.4.
Wow.
Oh. Which is, you know, well, it's a matter of hundredths faster than what Morgan did. And don't forget, Morgan did make a mistake on that lap that we saw him get pole with. So
well, then Carlos
is one
person. Then Carlos is one person who didn't have many siestas this vacation, because he has been testing all the time, apparently.
Yeah, well, apparently Carlos didn't actually do that much testing. It's one of those things. It's a strange thing when you have a long break, Chris. And I don't know if you've found this as well. Sometimes you actually end up doing less testing because it sort of creeps up on you. You get into holiday mode and then you forget, oh yeah, we're racing again this weekend, aren't we? And almost passes you by the amount of time, and sometimes doing less testing.
Well, that's one way in looking into it. I don't necessarily share, but yeah.
Well, I know it was the way with a lot of us this week. We sort of got, oh yeah, we're racing again this weekend, we better get on with it.
Okay, well, not for me though, but for me it was a different story. But yeah, it has been the vacation, and of course it has been in the back of to your head, and it has to become it has to settle in the front part yet again. But I'm sure everyone will perform quite nicely.
Yeah, I'm sure that nobody will have forgotten how to drive in that time. Remember how to, well, hopefully you remember how to do it. I'll probably find out, actually. I've not ridden a bike for ages.
You're British. You are stuck in traffic in a cab.
Yes, well, it's not quite so bad in Yorkshire, if I'm honest. I think that's more London, but yes. It's 121s we're seeing at the moment. Now, don't forget when I was talking about 121s that were done after the tyres had gone off yesterday, that was on lower fuel, because of course here we're running 100% distance, and that was a 30% distance race, which I think gives you an idea of how slow those times were at the end on low fuel, that they were doing 121s on tyres that were old with about 20 litres of fuel left on board, and here we are with drivers on 210 litres of fuel that are all beating that. So that just gives you an idea of how much the tyres are wearing this weekend. But of course that's the situation we said earlier on, that it really was the right decision to bring the two softer compounds here because of the natural grip of the track. There isn't a lot of natural grip on this circuit, and so for that reason they've had to bring the soft and super soft tyres. But then of course they don't last very long, so that's why we're in this situation where we're probably going to see quite a lot of pit stops, and me and Chris are certainly going to have to keep our thinking caps on, because we're going to have to be very alert during this race.
Yeah, I'm sure we have to, but I just want to say that next year I hope that we will follow the official calendar of Formula 1 and go back to the Nürburgring once more, because that's certainly
the
for me
Nürburgring, did you just call that?
Yeah, the Nordschleife, whatever. Anyway.
Oh, I'd love to do the Nordschleife, wouldn't that be great?
A little bit too long. No, but definitely in terms of German Grand Prix, I think Hockenheim, since the Thielke sort of rape, it got a little bit worse. I'm more a fan of the old Hockenheim circuit, and I think the Nürburgring actually has the most exciting corners. This circuit has a little bit more standard layout, leaves plenty of room for nice racing. I mean, we have a very wide track and all, but in terms of layout, I just think even turn 1 at Nürburgring is so exciting.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Because from a viewer's standpoint, the new Hockenheim has been fantastic, and even in FSR, those of you who have been around for a few years will remember some classic races here. Back in 2009, Bono Huys and Ronnie Hannell, two teammates who had each other off in the final lap of the race coming into the arena section. It was absolutely astonishing to watch, and I think Hannell came out on top and won that race but he had Huys off in the gravel in the final couple of corners, and we've had some classic races here. It's certainly good for viewers. I think from a driver's standpoint, I think the old Hockenheim was more fun to drive, I think is what you're saying, Chris.
Yeah, higher speed, higher action.
So that's, well, of course, we've got Monza coming up, not long in the distance, so that will certainly provide some of that.
Yeah, watching out for that turn 1 right there. Ooh, that's going to be
nice. Interesting, yeah. That's it. I think that's going to be one where there's. I mean, I don't know how many people.
I do remember my first race at Monza in Formula SimRacing in general. Of course, we were still on Air Factor 1 then. I remember, I was used to drive open publics, and Monza turn 1 was, you better brake 2 seconds before or 300 meters before the apex, because things were going to happen. In FSR, however, I noticed that we all got around cleanly, and I was really thinking, okay, this is going somewhere. These guys actually know what they're doing. So I think these guys will definitely take some caution, and it wouldn't be a problem. But I mean, a big accident is hidden in a very small space or mistake. So.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be said. Well, you just had somebody ask on the broadcast, they're asking each other, chatting amongst yourselves, and that's good. It's nice to see the different viewers chatting with each other. They're just having a discussion about who's going to come second behind Moran. I think that's a bit presumptuous. You don't know what's going to happen. Let's not forget that Morgan Moran did make a mistake in the last race, I think. I'm trying to remember, 7 weeks. It's a long time ago, but that was why Bono Huys has cut down that championship lead. Let's not forget that. So, let's not be presumptuous about this. He might not win, but
who's coming second then? I think Blair Disley.
Blair Disley, interesting.
Yeah, of course, Blair Disley.
Blair will love you for that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, maybe in that case, I don't know. Maybe Patrick de Witt then, clinching a podium once more.
From 21st. I'll tell you what, if he does that, then...
Well, Carlos Martin did it from 24th in Canada, so...
Yeah, that's very
what
true.
a berserk race that was, man. Canada, those last few laps, man, that was... if we get a similar situation this time, I'm definitely not leaving my computer the next few hours.
Perhaps you should have another question. How many will finish?
Over 9,000? No, I really don't know.
I'm gonna go with 15.
I actually think we will see a massive turn 1 carnage or something. I mean, it's commentator's curse, and I really don't hope for it, but I have this feeling things are about to go down. Let's put it like that.
So there we go, you heard it from here first. Chris has felt it in his waters, and he thinks that there's going to be a massive pile-up in turn 1. Let's hope he's wrong, but if it happens, you called it, mate.
Definitely did.
Well, interestingly then, so Bono Huis was fastest in the warm-up session, where he's going to need to be fast when he gets this race underway.
Netrax didn't went out.
Interestingly, Bono, despite his lowly grid position, is going to go on the super soft tyres by the look of it. What do you think to that decision, Chris? Because Carlos, obviously starting back there, has just opted to go for the primes, but Bono still going with the super soft tyre despite qualifying in 9th.
Yeah, well, he's the world champion, so he probably knows best.
Yeah, well, that's as good an answer as any. He's won these championships, finding it a lot more difficult this year. So dominant over recent years, Bono Huis, but Morgan Moran, who has been close to him in previous years, but never quite able to take the fight to him. He can now. He's 22 points ahead. And so we'll give you a rundown then of the grid ahead of this 67-lap race in Hockenheim. Morgan Moran starts from pole position. Peter Berliak will start in 2nd. Rob van Starkenburg 3rd. Yuri Toman will start 4th for Precision Motorsports. Janej Simoncic, a great qualifying performance to qualify 5th for Go Speed. Brilliant performance by him. Jack Keighley in 6th. Martin Gosby will start 7th. Dianka Stadanov in 8th place. Bono Huis 9th. Carlos Martin in 10th, both of them not setting a lap time in Q2. John-Eric Saxon is 11th, with Marcel van der Linden in 12th, the best of the faster than speed cars, quite a lot faster than teammate Patrick de Witt this weekend. The Venus Project Racing team lock out the 7th row with Antonio Kolarec and Luka Ozlakovic. Yoni Simon is in 15th for the Positive Sim Racing team. 16th is Mike Partington for Eventa Sim Racing. I believe he is now racing for the rest of the year alongside Dianka Stadanov in that team. I'm not sure. Ville Lepla has been there as well. I don't quite know what's going on there, but we'll keep an eye on that. Dino
Ville
Paolini.
Lepla needs a new graphics card, so if you have one,
there we
contact
go.
them.
So if you want to sell a graphics card, ask Ville Lepla. He's looking for one at the moment. That'd be very helpful.
He will accept alcohol in terms of payment, finish and stuff. Oh no, just joking,
pay with
Bill.
beer.
Just joking.
Yes. Dino Paolini 17th. I've got to carry on with this now. I'm trying to get beer out of my head. Anyway, Jim Parisis 18th. Eros Mashuli 19th, Zuhats Cabo in 20th place. Patrick de Witt 21st, Robert Rudolph 22nd, Blair Disley in 23rd, David Greco a very lowly 24th, but I think that was down to a back of the grid penalty. Matt Sentel 25th and Daniel Brewer in 26th place, and I still managed to get through that despite Chris doing his best to put me off.
Definitely, and Daniel Brewer, starting from the back of the grid, but he showed an awesome performance and pace in pro, so let's see if he can make everything work out here. As Morand slots up into his grid position, Daniel Brewer still has 2 corners to go in order to get through his slot. Who will lead after the lap 1? Will it be John-Eric Saxon?
Well, quite frankly,
will we see chaos, mayhem here, or will we see
what you
full
said
stop?
happens, it could be Daniel Brewer back in 26th place, but let's see. Morgan Moran, here we go. They're ready. After 7 weeks out, we're back racing in FSR and we're away, and Morgan Moran has got a great start. Look at the start, though, from 4th place there from one of the Precision Motorsports cars. That'll be Toman, of course, after Huis's lowly position. There's a few running wide in turn 1, but I think it's been mostly clean, which is good. And Morgan Moran goes down to the first corner. Simoncic has dropped back a little bit. He's under pressure from the other GT Omega racing car there. But it's been a good start from Morgan Moran, but he's got Van Starkenburg very close behind him.
Yeah, and Bono already into 7th place and challenging here Kostadinov. And
sorry, Chris, here comes Van Starkenburg down the outside of Morgan Moran into the hairpin. Get round the outside there. Morgan will shut the door But that was very close there. Van Starkenburg was looking at taking. I think Huis has slipped back.
Oh, and a crash
there's a bit of contact. Massive crash.
Carlos Martin and everything is going wild here. Dion Kostadinov here, or the other Aventa SimRacing car out of the race, and Carlos Martin forced to retire.
Well, he's got to be out of the race with that. He's lost the rear wing, so that's going to be at least and the suspension's grabbing everything.
Yeah.
Look, it's in the rear wing, bouncing down the track. I've never seen anything like that.
This is beyond fixables. Carlos Martin with the DNF there, and I did think he got caught up in the mix there, and not really he could do. But yeah, that's not my decision to make out. Either way, back to the pack. Well, that's certainly some action we didn't want to see.
Yeah, Huis has slipped back down to 8th, so he's lost the position again. Now Moran has built up a 9/10 lead on Van Starkenburg, so there was a little bit of a bad middle sector there from Van Starkenburg. I think that's what happened. There's a few stop-go penalties that are having to be removed, and Huis gets past Kostadinov into turn 2 and is up now into 7th place, but he's already lost nearly 5 Moran in just 1 lap, and that's the price for starting lower down the grid.
Yeah, definitely, and Morgan just capitalizing on that. But at this moment, it's Yuri Tolman who was giving Rob van Starkenburg a run for his money, because he's certainly applying the pressure on him. And a small gap towards Simon Sheets and Keith Lee there.
I'll tell you what, he's been in some trouble recently, but I'm going to give a shout out here for what I think is probably the start of the year. Patrick de Wit is 11th,
nice.
From 21st on the grid after 1 lap.
There you go, Patrick. And Martin Gosby now getting challenged by Luka Oslakovic. But yeah, and he's getting taken by Luka. Except if he can, no, he was slot behind him. So Luka Oslakovic definitely in 9th position here for the Venus Project Racing team, and Gosby slits into 10th.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Luca having such a good race. He's not near the front at all this year for most of the year, but having a really strong weekend here. He's pulling away from Gosby as well. So he's already got half a second on him.
Yeah, this is epic stuff.
So it's nice to see so many other drivers competitive here. Huis, by the way, I think the problem he's having is sometimes he's overtaking cars and then he's losing the position again, because the Precision Motorsports cars don't seem to be set up for straight line speed here this weekend.
No, true. And it's really necessary, because you need to have the higher speed into the DRS zone in order to get a move in. And the rest of the track is really near to impossible to overtake if the guy in front of you knows how to defend.
Sorry, Gosby's through on Oslakovic, and de Wit's followed him. De Wit is up the inside of Oslakovic. He opportunistic move there on the exit of the hairpin. Can he get past Luka Oslakovic into the next corner? They go side by side. They've managed to give each other room down into the arena section. De Wit trying to go around the outside, but eventually slots back in behind Oslakovic. But nice racing there from the two of them, side by side for a few corners, and they managed to keep it together.
Here comes Saxon. Oh.
Yeah, he certainly does. It's difficult to pass, though, in Sector 3, isn't it, Chris? There aren't really any major overtaking places in Sector 3.
No, you can definitely hope someone's going off in the second last corner, you know, a little bit too wide on the curb. But next to that, no, there's absolutely no way you can make a move stick.
Morgan Moran has a 2-second lead now on Rob van Starkenburg. Toman is closing in on the GT Omega car in 3rd as a few drivers kick up some more dust. I dread to think how much rubbish is going to be on this track by the end of the race, because there's so much dust being kicked up by drivers. It's going to land on the track. That's going to be interesting. Grip's probably not going to get any better the way that's going. Huis, by the way, is now on the back of Peter Berliak for 6th place, who did not have a very good start, Peter Berliak, because of course he started 2nd, I think, didn't he? And he's now in 6th place.
And that's not how you want it. He's getting under pressure of Bono, and well, I assume Bono can make his way around these guys, but I don't know how hard they want to make it on him. I mean, having seen what we've seen earlier, I don't in the season, that is, I don't think the GT Omega cars will make it too hard. I mean, it's pretty much the talk on the radio that someone is faster than the other guy. And yeah, it's suiting for Germany, though. Suiting.
Saxon up the inside of de Wit into the... Wow, that was in the Sector 3, but the only problem is he's run wide. It's actually cost him, John-Eric Saxon, because Van der Linden's going to pass him as well around the outside. They're side by side at a very narrow piece of tarmac, and Saxon's just managed to hold on to it, but he tried to get past de Wit, who had in turn tried to be passing Oslakovic,
and Van der Linden
ended up running wide.
Van der Linden goes wide, and Simon trying to make an opportunistic move work there, but Van der Linden sticking to his ground there. And again, Simon threatening to overtake Van der Linden here, and he definitely has better line through here. He can just brake a little bit later. Nope, he's not going. Oh, and Zult Cabo tapping the rear of his teammate there. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen those racing cars crash each other.
No, and David Greco's taken advantage of that because he's passed Cabo, although it's interesting that the two top teams don't seem to have gone for very good straight line speed here, because Greco's immediately repassed by Zuhats Cabo because he doesn't have the straight line speed to go through it, even although he's got the position now away from the corner. So they've got more grip, those Twister and Precision cars, but they're not going for straight line speed, interestingly, this weekend. But then again, those two teams are the teams that have won every race this weekend so far. So
Indeed.
Obviously works.
Brewer picks off a Cabo there. Finds himself now in 16th place, starting from the back of the grid, literally.
And Patrick de Wit has passed Luka Ostakovic. And, well, we said how we didn't think Patrick de Wit would get points today. Well, I did anyway, and 4 laps he's there.
Indeed, and Morgan Morana with a 1.5 second lead, or 2 seconds even, on to Rob van Starkenburg. Rob van Starkenburg can't get an edge into Jiri Tolman, who's still behind him, closing in.
Yeah, Toman getting very close to Van Starkenburg now. It's down to half a second. But the only trouble for Toman is that with these Precision Motorsports cars, although you suspect the GT Omega will be set up in a very similar fashion, they're not really set up for straight line speed. Toman, though, will have the advantage of the DRS at the moment, which Van Starkenburg won't, because he's 2.4 seconds behind Moran.
Oh,
and he's getting a bit leery behind.
Indeed, with Keithley and Simon Sheets here. Keithley on the inside line. They let each other live, and now, of course, the inside line becomes the outside line. And Simon Sheets is able to retake that position, but Keithley is bravely sticking his car in there, and it was his right to do so. But Simmons is now losing 2 more positions in the next bend just because he didn't have the exit speed there.
Yes, and Peter Burliak says, thank you very much, boys. I'll have that, and takes 5th position. And now on the back of Jack Keithley and Weiss as well, up into 6th, as Chris mentioned. So 6 laps downwards, and it's looking pretty good for Morgan Moran. And crucially for him, his championship contender, who is fighting back in traffic, is already 8.1 seconds behind him.
Yeah, and that's a massive disadvantage for Bono, but I mean, he's still up there. The race is long. We barely made it to 10%, so...
Yep, that's very true. Ostakovic de Wit, by the way, has now pulled away from Ostakovic, and I think might be outside the DRS zone. Yes, he is. So that's good news for de Wit, and he can now focus on trying to catch Martin Gosby. Meanwhile, though, John-Eric Saxon is going to be all over Ostakovic down to the hairpin as they head down here. And John-Eric Saxon with the extra speed, I think he's not even going to need the braking zone to get past. No, he doesn't. So, although Ostakovic dives back on the inside, as I believe we saw a couple of times yesterday.
He got him.
But John-Eric Saxon has kept the position and he's up into 11th place for ACR.
I'm wondering if you have some delay on your race, to be honest. Like a few seconds.
Well, according to my R-Factor, it is live.
Alright, then it's good. Either way, John-Eric Saxon fighting his way up to the pack here. And surprisingly finds Patrick de Wit in front of him. And both of these guys are on the harder compound, so they still have to make use of the super softs. And I'm really wondering when the front guys will pit at first. I do think the window has already opened for the first pit stop.
What I find slightly baffling about this, Patrick de Wit's only going about 2 seconds, a lap slower than he went in qualifying. He's on the harder tyre and on 210 litres of fuel. If anyone knows the answer to that one, please tell us.
Would be funny if he had a fuel problem, starting problem once again. I don't think so, but
well,
yeah, no, he's just flying.
It's surprising, isn't it? Carlos Martinez left the race, so that is well, we saw him, didn't we, with no front wing earlier on. We thought that might be possible. There's a big battle going on for 13th place. Back Johnny Simon. Oh dear, it's all gone belly up. That's not gone well. I think it's Johnny Simon and David Greco, and Greco has lost a couple of positions there. Surprisingly, I don't think either of them sustained damage, which is a miracle, to be honest, considering how much contact there was between the two of them. Simon might have a bit of suspension damage, actually.
And there's a battle between Martin Gosby and Dion Kostadinov defending wisely, and in 8th place now. And Janus, there's a little bit of lag in my screen.
Yeah, well, it's got, yeah, there is a little...
There we go.
Because Kostadinov's disappeared on mine at the moment.
I don't hope there will be a server problem, because...
Well, that's the last thing. Apparently, we'll give you an update as soon as we can, because Gosby at the moment is registering in 6th place at the moment. I'll just wait and see when Kostadinov reappears, if he reappears. I hope he's not had a disconnection, because I can see all the other drivers. That's what's worrying me.
Nope, I believe...
We've lost, hang on a minute, we've lost Dino Paolini, Dejan Kostadinov, Blair Disley, Peter and Jurnej Simoncic from the server. So that is 5 retirements, and I'm assuming they're all due to disconnections.
I'm lost too as well.
Yeah, we've definitely lost 5 drivers. They're all listed as DNF on my screen.
User session expired or was taken by another account. Successful login.
Right, okay. So that would mean that somebody else logged in on their details. Normally. That's very bizarre. We'll have to work that one out later on. Wait. Meanwhile, Rob van Starkenburg is in the pit lane. So let's get back to some form of reality here for a second. All this means, by the way, that Patrick de Witt is now 7th. So when it comes to gaining the most positions in a race, he's now 6th because Van Starkenburg's dropped down the order and now he's disappeared. And he is out of the race. Right, wow. Well, I'm going to suggest that we need to abandon this race because this is far too many cars dropping out.
I think so. I think we should restart the race and maybe shorten it with 10%
the director's made absolutely
like
the right call. Edward Mayaki has just red flagged the race, so that is what we're going to have. We're going to restart this at some point, I think, if we can, when we get everybody back on server.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, this is crazy. So everyone is allowed to restart their race, I believe. So that Carlos Martin is even as well, if the race is going to be restarted. So. And it's definitely the right call. I mean, everyone just dropping there.
I'll tell you who it is a lucky day for, Carlos Martin.
Yeah.
I don't know the rules, but I'm assuming he's going to be. Will he be allowed to restart? Are they just going to restart the race from the start, or are they going to cut it by 9 laps? That's the question. Because we were quite a way into the race, so maybe for time's sake they might cut the race distance a little bit. I'm not sure, so we'll have to wait and see how that happens.
Yeah, indeed, and
as soon as we know, we'll tell you. So that is going to be. Ruiz has just asked, "Can we do qualifying again?"
No, I think I don't know what's going to happen though, because for some people it would be really unfortunate, like for example Patrick de Witt, like you mentioned earlier, getting top 10 in a few laps, and you know, I don't think it's fair if his opportunity will be taken away. But
well, my personal opinion is that they should restart the race. I think they should allow Carlos to restart the race because it was an unfortunate mistake. But I think they should restart the race as positions were when they were at the end of lap 9. That is my personal opinion, but I don't know.
True.
We're gonna have a look in the rule book and see what this is. At the moment, they're going to restart the server. So I've just had the same thing that other drivers have been having, actually. So I will be back with you in a second. I've just had user session expired. So I will be back with you as soon as I can. Are you still in the server, Chris?
No, I'm actually not, because I got the problem as well, and I tried to reconnect, but I hear he has to restart the server. So we're just gonna hang on for a minute, take a quick break, I suppose, from the racing, and it allows us to reflect on what just happened. And I think chaos happened right there.
Right, okay, so here is the rules. Less than 15% race distance run, restart. Now, 9 laps. Somebody work out how much percent that is. I'm just going to get my calculator out. I'm not sure it is, actually.
It is less than 15. 9 laps is maximum 15. I mean, we got 60 of 76, so 67.
Well, 9 laps would be it'd be about 14.3%. So they're very
Indeed.
lucky, because if they'd have gone another lap, we'd have had different situation here, because that would have then come into the next ruling, which is less than 50%, which is a rescheduled race. So that didn't happen. So it is, it was very close, but it is just inside 15%. So we will be restarting this race. That is very unfortunate for Patrick de Wit, who will now have to start back from where he was then, which maybe is a rule that needs looking at, because, as you say, Patrick de Wit had an excellent first few laps, and that seems a bit harsh.
I'll be right back.
Well, we'll just keep you going here in this race weekend. We have not had any other problems this weekend apart from this, and obviously it's just one of those things that's outside of the control of the race directors. It's outside of control of everybody, really. So we will get this race back underway as soon as possible. I can tell you that the race director is working feverishly at the moment to get everything sorted out, to get all the paperwork done and get ready to restart this Grand Prix, and we will be back underway as soon as possible. In the meantime, though, we can reflect on what was an impressive first few laps by several drivers. Patrick de Wit, we mentioned, unfortunately, he's going to now have to start back from 21st again. Bono Huis, well, he'd had a decent race, actually, so far, so he's going to have to come back through from 9th again. And, it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see some interesting racing. Hopefully, the first lap will be clean this time. And with any luck, we might see some great drives from a few drivers. Simoncic was looking pretty good until that disconnection, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. De Wit's pace was excellent as well on the harder tyre, and we'll see if they can do anything about Morgan Moran, who was pulling away, and of course has got to now do it all again. In the meantime, you may find at some point that your live timing is down. If that's the case, just stick with us and we'll keep you updated as much as we can from the on-server times as to who's doing good lap times and things like that. We'll try and do that during the race, because there is a possibility that the live timing might not be working when we get this race back underway. So just bear with us, and hopefully we'll be able to keep you up to date on how the lap times are going, who's setting good lap times. Just means that you'll know who is really making the moves during the race. So we'll keep you up to date on that as best we can. Stay with us, because we will get this back underway very, very shortly.
And I'm back. What did I miss?
Not much.
No. Has the server restarted yet?
Not as far as I'm aware, no. I was just thinking, now you're back, Chris. I didn't like talking to myself, because there are all kinds of problems with that. But Patrick de Wit is obviously not going to like this. The other thing I was mentioning just a moment ago is that Bono Huis, who had made his way up to 5th, is now going to have to start from 9th again.
Of course.
So it's a second time when he might be in trouble, because we always know when you're back in the pack, that is more chance for an incident.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that we'll do the best once more. And of course, if we have this situation where everything goes wrong into first corner, then there obviously will be people that will be saying, okay, in the first race it didn't happen and now it does. Yeah, well, that's completely true. But these are the rules, and these are the guidelines all teams have accepted before going into this championship, and therefore they have no ground on what to blame for. These are the rules, and we're following them by, and maybe these situations lead to even improving on the next times. I don't know, but this is what we're gonna stick to, and. I think it's a fair decision. Not for some, but for others, it balances out. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the rule, and the rules, and they're applying them absolutely correctly. So that's what we've got to go with. We can't just change them mid-season, but that's it's definitely the right call. And the race director did a good job at stopping the race as well, because there are some race directors I've known in the past that probably would have stubbornly carried on with that race, even though people were dropping from it. So nice to see that did happen, and well done to Edward Mayaki for red flagging the race and making sure that all these drivers get a fair crack of the whip.
Yeah, indeed, and I wonder when we will restart once more, but let's see.
We're just waiting. They're just trying to work out which server to use. So they're trying to make sure that it isn't going to happen again, basically. That's the reason for the delay, more than anything, is just to make sure that when we do get this restarted, that we don't have a recurrence of the problem, because that's just a waste of everybody's time. So
yeah,
they're just trying to make sure that it's going to be stable.
Yeah, for the British people, get your cup of tea. For the Spanish people, get your horchata in place. You know, for Germans, get your sausage ready and beer, and we will probably race again in
You
not
still
a long
got
time.
nothing for Estonians.
Estonians, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with Estonia. I mean,
well,
another fact about Estonia, they don't actually have any main religion in the country. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, you do know that I'm religious, right?
Yes, so I don't mean to disrespect you, but I mean,
never.
I mean, plenty of people getting killed for religion. So
anyway, it's maybe actually if somebody could tell us exactly what the national dishes are in Estonia. While
they
we're
are just neutral. That's all I want to say. Not offending religious people. They're just completely neutral,
I knew what
and
you
that's
meant,
never
mate.
a wrong thing, you know, to be neutral.
I knew what you meant. I'm just winding you up. Don't worry.
Well,
anyway, Estonia is but I don't know what the national dishes are over there. I know it's in Finland. I think they like quite a lot of. They eat reindeer there. I know that in Finland. I don't quite know. Estonia is just across the water. I'm not sure what they eat there. Maybe somebody can tell us. An Estonian maybe out there watching.
I don't know. Really, they got some disgusting things in the UK though, or I think it's I think it's Scottish actually, where you get this haggis, like literally the stomach of
sheep
a pig.
stomach.
You know?
Yes.
I'm like, dude, you know.
Can I just say I don't eat that? I've never eaten it.
I don't mind. I mean, whatever floats your boat, you know. I mean, Bear Grylls would certainly not be afraid of it. I'm sure.
No, but to be fair, I think he's eaten just about everything. So
yeah, man, that guy's just a plastic.
There's not a lot that phases him, to be perfectly honest.
Nah.
It's, somebody's asking if we've got something for Poles, but Poland, I think they quite like chilled meats, don't they? Something like that.
I think they like booze more than they like. No, I think they like booze more than they like than Finnish people even. But
they use beer as food.
I don't know, but do we have any Polish drivers?
We've been reliably informed by our ever-travelled cameraman, Sam Jones, that Polish food's actually very similar to British food. That's interesting. So they have quite a lot of British food there. So
you both suck then. You both suck.
Well, I'm not as well-travelled as Sam Jones, I have to say. I've never been to Poland, but he has apparently, so there we go.
I'm actually really well-travelled. I went to Denmark once.
Well, I've been to Spain and Portugal, but that's about the limit.
That was the joke, actually. But
when you say you went to Denmark, isn't that about 100 miles from where you...
Yeah, well, sort of.
It depends on which part of Netherlands
you're in. The only thing I
suppose.
remember is that you pay a hell of a lot of money for a coffee. in Denmark. But that's a different story. So how about the racing part? Is
We're
there
not
any
back
news?
on yet. We're gonna have to venture into Asia very shortly with our food circle.
Yeah, I don't know if my R factor is even starting at one.
At the moment, I've got nothing on the server. We are, of course, as I said, they want to make sure that it doesn't go again. That's the crucial thing, because you know, as much time as this takes, the problem is if we start it too quickly and then it then fails again, then we're going to have to take even more time. So sometimes just taking a little bit of time to get everything working is useful, because it just means that you're not going to have problems later on, or at least that's what we hope. But as soon as we know anything, we will let you know. It's a bit like we think about the F1 delays across the years. I mean, most recently we had one a few years ago in Korea, I think, didn't we? Where there was a maybe.
What about Canada?
2.5, and Canada, yes. Was that last year? I think it was not this year, was it? It was last year, I think. I don't know. Time's going so quickly. I'm getting old.
I believe it was 2011 or something.
Right. So 2011 in Canada, 2010 in Korea, wasn't it? So yeah. So you're right. That is more recent. And yeah. Somebody just said, Chris, you can answer this one. Somebody's just said to me on the chat that the national dish of Holland is cannabis.
Oh, it certainly is.
Do you want to comment on that one?
Oh, sure. Nah,
he takes it in his cake.
No. Our national dish is boerenkool met worst. There you go.
And what's in that? That sounds interesting.
Sappige kutjes. Nee, I don't know.
You don't know?
No,
call yourself a Dutchman.
It's basically potatoes and green stuff and vegetables, and it's lovely.
Green stuff. Well, there you go.
Green stuff.
Perhaps you were correct.
Yeah.
To have your.
No,
so Sam Jones isn't too impressed with that. I don't think he sounds like he really wants
we like
to eat
lasagna too, you know, lasagna. But I mean, it's obviously Italian. I mean, when it comes to cooking, I think Italians and France, people from France, except the snail part, which they eat in France, are pretty much the best cooks.
Maybe it'd be a good idea to talk about the multinationality of FSR, because if we think about the days, FSR's been around now for 10. How many years? It's 2001, I think they started, wasn't it? So it's about 13 years. And if you look at the drivers back then, it was, you know, within a set few countries. But now, if you look at the drivers, I mean, let's just take World Championship as an example. I'm looking down. We've got drivers from France, the Netherlands, Estonia, Britain, Croatia, Greece, Italy, Bulgaria, Spain, Australia, New Zealand, I believe. One of the drivers, unless they're both, yeah. So, and then you've got Finland. You've got drivers from Hungary, Slovenia, Serbia. It really is, and Matt Santel is from the United States. So there we go. That's even it's a very multinational and worldwide league these days. It really has developed into
although
that.
The drivers out of the United States have some trouble with the right bends, you know, they rather go left.
You can discuss that one with Matt Santel later on if you want.
Well, is he? Oh, okay. Well,
he is American.
No comment.
Well, it was you that said it. I would like to put it on record here. Chris de Jong was the one who said that Americans can only turn left. So, Matt Santel, send your complaints to Mr. Chris de Jong, as we now know, living in Tallinn, Estonia.
Oh. Nah, but I don't hope other people have problems with their R factor, because it's really grinding my gears at this moment.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, obviously we've had there's been a few issues here. Hopefully we will get this back underway sooner rather than later. But for those people who are saying on that they're doing this wrong when they restart this, according to the rules, that they are following the rules exactly. We are under 15%, and therefore the race restarts with the grid as it originally was.
Yeah, they should shorten the race though, because our broadcast time is not in reach, I think.
Well, we're on the YouTube channel, so I mean, apart from me and you and our availability, I think we can keep going.
How many people are there on the YouTube channel at this moment?
There are 108 listening to us talk about Polish and Estonian food.
Well,
so
Die-hard fans, yeah. The
keep it
server,
real.
by the way, has gone underway, so we are making progress. So all your efforts are not in vain of waiting and watching and listening to us talk about food and Germans and such. I'm happy to say that I think in 5 or 10 minutes we will be underway again with a very angry Patrick DeWitt and a very happy Carlos Martin.
To be fair, Carlos is pretty. It sounds pretty angry at the moment anyway. I think that might be because of what happened earlier on. So
what did happen earlier?
Let's just say there are a few fired up drivers.
Are there? Well, why is Sam Jones happy then? Because of his camera?
Well, I don't know about Sam Jones. Sam's always happy.
Okay, then it's good. All right, so Patrick DeWitt driving around on track. So is Jim Paresis. Haven't seen him in the race.
I think there's one thing for certain: we're going to be a bit late down the. That's.
Yeah, and that's why
that's pretty much a given now.
I'm going to ask that.
Chris doesn't like missing his beer, as you can probably gathered.
I don't drink beer.
Do you not? Which more of
I got class, man. I'm not drinking beer.
He's a wine man.
No, whiskey.
Oh, whiskey. Interesting. That's Irish or Scotch?
Basically Johnny Walker Green Label, which is
really
nice. No, not American.
I believe Johnny Walker's American.
But I don't have the money in order to buy those bottles because they're so expensive.
Yes, that's very true. And every bit as expensive as this server's going to be if it gets bust again. So we might need another one. Somebody's going to be out of pocket, that's for certain.
So I'm asking the admin if we are going to shorten the race.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because I imagine there's going to be some people who... Now, let's not forget for our drivers in Estonia, it's okay for the guys in America because they're racing at about lunchtime, so time's not going to run out on them. But for the guys that are in the Eastern European countries, it's going to get quite late, the way things are going at the moment. And I think this is what is going to be taken into account. Luckily, we do race World Championship earlier than we used to do. I think at one point we were racing at about 7 o'clock British time, weren't we, Chris? And if it had been that time, there would have been no way they'd have been able to maybe even restart this because of the lateness that would have been for some of the drivers. But we do start a little bit earlier these days.
Well, drivers shouldn't whine about 30 minutes more or less, to be honest.
No, that's very true. But of course, if they restart the entire race, then it's going to push it back by about an hour, probably up to. So that would be a concern, wouldn't it?
I just got the confirmation of Eduard Malorki that the race in its entirety will be restarted. So that means another full race distance coming up. And
a bit more blabber for me and you to do yet until they get it restarted because they've got to get everybody back in the server.
I don't have the feeling we have talked too much yet about Estonia, so let's talk about Estonia.
I think we've done pretty. I think we've done pretty well, really. They do say that it's the making of commentators when they have to fill time because of something like this, and we have just well and truly proved that we should be sacked. So there we go.
No, I mean the show has to go on. So I mean as we're getting ahead of the things that are about to go on, and doing things at the same time as a guy is really impossible. Reading here that Eduard Malorki will restart.
The only other thing as well that they're going to have problems with now is there's no real road, so the rubber's not going to be as much on the tracks. It's going to be even less grippy than it was the first time. So that's going to be very entertaining.
This will create a lot of action. So, and I think we desperately need to show our viewers some nice action. I mean, so the track has 50% less grip at this moment. The real road isn't yet rubbered in that much. So it will definitely be a guarantee for a lot of action and a lot of sad faces. I mean, imagine yourself if Patrick DeWitt goes out and gets
just try and keep it clean. I'm sure he can get through again. We know he's got the speed, so let's see. If he just keeps himself out of trouble, that would be the best thing to do. And you know, at the end of the day, you may well get points, especially on a low grip circuit, because some drivers will be hitting one another. I'm sure of that. Interestingly, there were a few selfless drivers there that were going around trying to get some rubber on the circuit. Morgan Moran was just sitting back in the garage, probably deck chair out, pina colada in hand. I was just thinking, I'll just let them do that, and then I can go out when it's nice and rubbered.
I don't see him with a pina colada. I see him more with a glass of wine and a piece of baguette next to the other side of his chair.
You think he's a very distinguished man?
I think he has some typical French class. You know, the beard definitely shows it, that he's a man of high class.
Yes, the beard. If you've never seen Morgan Moran's beard, I suggest you get onto Facebook. It's quite something. It's between him and Ernesto De Angelis, actually, for the best. Maybe this is a competition we can start. The best beard in FSR. Please get your votes in.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Chris may even grow one to enter the competition.
Oh hell nah, man! No beard for me, man. No beard for me. But I think Netrix will do really great at the beard competition, though.
Yeah,
what's actually the youngest team in FSR in terms of the age of drivers? Do you know?
That's a very good question. I will look that up while we're in the warm-up, because they will need to run this warm-up, I should imagine, to get the real road back up.
Yeah, I don't know if Carlos Martin is... yeah, Carlos Martin is back on track, so it's rarely when the race gets red flagged and people get another shot in, but this is the way it goes. And people are just getting warmed up and rubbering the track in even further, although I don't think it's 100% before we start this race. And I'm just curious about the driver positions, and I really don't hope we see some epic crashes early on, because so many drivers have had some disadvantage of this restart. For example, Patrick DeWitt, but also other drivers like David Greco, who was doing reasonable until the crash. Bono Huis actually made up some nice positions, but I think it was still the right call by Eduard, and I'm happy that the restart took place.
Yeah, so we will be back going in about 5 minutes' time. I've got a team of researchers on that, because it's quite a difficult one. They're going to have to do some mathematics as well to work out who the youngest team is. So I have got there's a team of little minions going off and working that one out.
With Sherlock Holmes outfit.
Yes. Well, perhaps not all in that outfit. That would be.
By the
way,
Sherlock Holmes. Yes, it's the uncle of Jonathan Holmes.
Yeah. Is that what he's claiming these days?
No. That's what I say.
All right. Okay. Maybe that's what we need to do. We need to work out some nicknames for the drivers. They have them in. I've noticed actually it's very strange. They have these in NASCAR. They have them in motorcycle racing, but very rarely do you actually see that in sort of Formula One style racing.
Yeah, but
maybe NASCAR, we need to introduce it.
In NASCAR, you definitely need it, because in America they just like to fight after they crash each other.
Yeah.
It's like who will fight each other, and there goes.
I wouldn't go there too much, especially after recent events.
We're much more professional than that.
You have to say, though, that the NASCAR have been the cause of their own downfall, and while I think we're there actually on that subject, we'd just like to say, obviously it's very doubtful any of them will be listening, but Kevin Ward Jr.'s family at the moment, everybody's thoughts with them after the recent event. If you've not read about it,
yeah, to be honest,
a man killed in a sprint car race a couple of weeks ago.
I saw the video, though, and what I have to say is that it's really unfortunate what happened, but it's also pretty stupid to walk on the track and let the other driver know about your disagreement on the situation, you know. I mean, if that happens in Formula One, you know,
well, I mean, we
have seen people walking across the road on Formula One, like the British lunatic once did, and the British Grand Prix, and in Germany as well, on the old Hockenheim.
The disgruntled Mercedes employee, I believe it was, got sacked and decided that the best thing to do was to run down the back straight of Hockenheim, where at that point in time they were still going 210 miles an hour, something ridiculous, because it was the old edition.
Fact of the matter is, if that guy who got killed in the American race division, dirt race, whatever, if he had plenty of time to just walk away of the incident, there was no problem whatsoever. He had 5 or 10 seconds to spare, and he decided to go on the track. But what happened then was really catastrophical, and definitely not what he mentioned. But he should have just run off, and he would have no problem whatsoever. And as I said, that Carlos Martin here doing a Lewis Hamilton. Literally,
yeah, it was very similar. I almost thought that I had to do a double take then and make sure I wasn't watching. I wasn't accidentally on BBC iPlayer watching old Formula One races. It was bizarre, but yes, so he'd be back out now anyway and testing the car. And yeah, I think unfortunately in America they promote the show all the time and they almost encourage their drivers to have these sort of spats with each other, and unfortunately that's resulted. I do rather think that they have rather added to this problem that they've had recently. So anyway, that's another discussion, but of course never nice for the families, as we said.
We are moving to the race. I hope Sam Jones is with us in all focus. Give us a confirmation, Sam.
Is he, are you still alive, Sam Jones? That's what we want. No, he's switched to watching TV.
That's not nice.
He's an absolute traitor.
Yeah, he is. But
we're all here. Me and Chris are here trying to, you know, somehow desperately trying to cling on to life and somehow manage to keep you guys entertained. And Sam Jones has decided, no, actually, I'd rather go watch CSI. That's basically what he's done. And
well, Yuri Toman got a disconnect, so we might postpone the race even 2 minutes further. Would be nice to wait for him, though.
Oh dear, that's not good. Well, having another disconnect at this point, you have to wonder how this is going to go. Yeah, so well, Sam will have to come back at some point because he's operating our cameras. And quite frankly, I don't think everybody wants to look at the side of a concrete wall for an hour and a half. So let's hope he does get back at some point, if he's needed.
Yeah.
In the meantime, maybe this will actually promote a new show, Chris. Perhaps me and you might even get our own chat show after this.
Yeah, on my Twitch channel. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be good.
Definitely. So Marcel van der Linden here, getting eager to race.
And apparently we've just reminded Sam Jones that he nearly forgot to record. Sam Jones is basically getting his weekly TV in while he's waiting for us to sort this problem out. We are expecting to get back driving. Only Yuri Toman has had a disconnect since we got the server back online. So we're just waiting to see if we should get back running. Hopefully we will. It does seem reasonably stable at the moment, but we can't make too many predictions. We'll have to wait and see how things are going. It's very strange. It's very unfortunate that this has happened today and at this time, because the Ace and Pro events ran without any problems whatsoever, Chris. So this is... well, any problems there were minor ones and generally just to certain users. And they were usually viewing problems rather than lag problems. But we are moving to the race.
We definitely are, and I'm just happy we can say that. But yeah, definitely the viewers here who are with us definitely get a longer show, that's for sure. So in terms of, you know, money for product, although they didn't have to pay yet. No, but yeah, we will have a rerun of what just happened, and as we are about to run the grid once more, we are underway for the formation lap for the last time today. I hope.
Thank goodness
Fingers
for that.
crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nice for the drivers as well if you have another restart.
It's not nice for the viewers. They have to listen to us talking about
and
beer for
already someone stalled on the grid. Who is that stalled on the grid? Is that John Eric Saxon? Where are you, John? Yep, John Eric Saxon stalled on the grid.
Oh,
and
John,
let's go on board with him.
He's still rolling the car. He might be able to get it restarted.
His engine is... No,
right, well, he's going to have to start from the pit lane. Of course, because we're on the formation lap, he's lucky he did that on the start of the formation lap and not at the start of the race, because if it was the start of the race, he'd be out. Because it was the formation lap, he can start from the pit lane.
I wonder, though, being John Eric Saxon, president of FSR, if the race gets suddenly restarted,
No, I don't think John's not like that. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm pretty confident of that. He's quite an understated guy, is John Eric Saxon, actually. He's He's not somebody who gets involved in a lot of battles. He doesn't really get involved in a lot of arguments or debates.
I don't know how it's
very quiet.
I don't know how it is with Air Factor 2, but I remember in Air Factor 1, if you had to start out of the pit lane, you had to wait like half a lap before the pit the pit light went onto green. I hope they fixed that.
Because I started from the pit lane yesterday in race 2 in the Ace race, and it basically the green light goes on as soon as they're through turn 1.
Okay, well that's how it's supposed to be.
That's how it is now, and that's how it's supposed to be, as you say. So yes, Gosby and Saxon will not lose much time at all. Apparently, it was actually Martin Gosby that stalled.
Martin Gosby left the race.
Yeah. Now I don't understand why he's done that, because he didn't. I'm assuming he didn't have a disconnection because he stalled on the grid and then he went back to the pits, which meant he must have had to press escape. So he obviously was still on the server to do that.
God.
So I don't quite know what's happening. He can't. He does know he can start from the pit lane, right?
Yeah, but
wouldn't have.
I think he. Either way, we're about to get underway once more. Morgan Moran is back into his slot. So is Peter Biljak, Rob van Starkenburg next to him and behind them. Nice to see Carlos Martin and Bono Huis back into their grid slots, and eager to see what they can do.
Well, one of our 3 race winners for the year already out then, because Martin Gosby is not going to start. He's going to have a DNS, and we don't see them very often in FSR, but that's what he's going to go down as. Here we go then.
There we go.
Somebody was obviously out of position on the grid, but it's sorted now. Morgan Moran then. Can he get as good a start as he did last time? No, he can't, because Biljak... there's a massive collision in the background. I think somebody must have stalled. Somebody must have stalled, because they would not normally see that on a straight. Biljak, though...
there's a race! Carlos Martin with Bono Hughes. Oh, no!
Massive accident.
This has to be a red flag
It has to be a red flag, surely. Biljak, though, is in the lead. Peter Biljak takes the lead of the race. He's up the outside of Morgan Moran and takes the lead of the race, but a huge accident. And Van Starkenburg is all over Moran as well. They're going to go 3 wide, down into the hairpin. This is crazy. Morgan Moran up the inside of Peter Biljak. Van Starkenburg's on the outside. Biljak thinks I'm getting out of this, and he did well actually, because he's going to cut back up the inside and take the lead again. Excellent by Peter Biljak. Brilliant driving. And there's somebody else now that's run
We're still going to have a red flag here. This is abnormal, phenomenal even. I mean, half of the drivers are already, well, pretty much retired.
We only actually have 5 retirements, so I guess actually that's it looks more.
Nah, that crash was really more devastating than that. Marcel van der Linden out as well.
It's interesting that some drivers are making the point you restarted it for others, but you won't restart it for us, which you'd have to say you can have some sympathy with that.
This was just restart worthy. I mean, having 2 massive crashes as this,
if that happened in any real life motorsport, there is no way that this race would have continued on. No way. It's good for news for Biljak, though. He is out front. And he made a great move on the outside.
This is questionable. This is really questionable for Belorti, to be honest.
Yeah, well, let's. I'm not going to say anything too early, because Edward Mayakin made a very good decision to restart the race in the first place. But this is interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, restart warm-up. There has been a red flag, so
there we go.
better late than never.
So that's the right decision. I suppose the thing is you've got to wait and see how many cars are actually out, because sometimes as well you've got 5 retirements that immediately pressed escape, but there are sometimes also other drivers that have got damage that you don't quite know about until they come back around to the pits and then retire. So that might well have been the case, and but we are going to restart this race.
Colorage being pointed out among the drivers to be the massive, I'm not going to say the word, this incident. He just went basically through everyone. John Eric Saxon here making the wisest comment of them all, saying this is karma, ... Yeah, I don't know. People
take
are
three.
Actually, yeah, take 3 obviously. Oh my god, this is really one time only, I think, that we have had 2 restarts already. Well, this is really just getting really epic. But I think it was the best choice. No, not back to beer, but this was definitely also a right decision from him to restart the race. The first restart was due to the massive disconnections And that was certainly a no-brainer. This situation is also a no-brainer. I mean, I haven't seen such massive carnage in a World Championship for years now, and well, if there was ever going to be a red flag, it was this situation.
Well, the other thing is that everybody's absolutely furious with everybody, so that's good. I don't think there's actually any drivers actually getting on now. That's the amazing thing.
But we're about to restart once more. People are already talking about rescheduling, and Bono
ding ding
stating
round
that
3.
yeah, there's a 1 hour delay already. He's right about that. But yeah, I mean,
I'm just trying to work out how far is. I imagine that the most easternly country that we've got are going to be the Estonian and Serbian countries. It's going to be gone midnight, isn't it?
No. Here's Johnny Simon, our Australian guy, saying it's not like it's 4 a.m. in Australia or anything.
Yeah, but we all know he's nuts. So
yeah, so it's 4 o'clock in the night.
It's sort of a given you're going to be going during.
And now
the
Martin
race.
Gosmi. Martin Gosby is pending an open session. I mean, it has been red flagged. He should be, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike is
okay. Martin
Gosby. So that's
Gosby.
fine.
Okay, has entered
Excellent.
the race. Okay.
No, take 4. Carlos can't count because he says it's 5th attempt, but it's actually the 4th, I think.
No. Martin should actually be allowed to race there. I mean, if there's a red flag, all drivers should at least have been given a few minutes. Already. Everyone has been.
Can I just say that while we've been talking about beer, the viewing figures have gone up. So. Is that
well, where there's action there, viewers, and having seen such a massive carnage just a minute ago, I mean, it's not surprising to see the numbers increase. Either way, we're about to get underway once more. The formation lap is about to begin for the 3rd time today, but. I mean, in 1 year we will remember this. Oh, remember last year's Germany Grand Prix? You know, it can't get any worse than that in terms of delay.
And the race director, I think, has just made another good decision, which is Antonio Coleridge, who was the cause of that last incident, apparently because his lag was so great that he couldn't actually see any of the other drivers. Has now been removed from the game due to basically it not picking up any better because others couldn't see him. So he's now been removed from the race, and I think that's a good decision as well. So
same here. So
whilst all the drivers are having a pretty leery day, it has to be said the race director is having a very good one in general.
Well, he's gonna have well, not so many decisions now because all of the incidents that happened before are basically wiped off.
After the first race, he's probably thinking, "Phew, at least I don't have to review all those tonight." That's a big bonus.
And now Martin Gosby
loses connection again. Yes.
I mean, okay, he had his chance though, so don't feel bad for him. But yeah, at least Patrick de Wit gets another chance after that incident in last attempt, but. I mean, this is just so epic.
Yeah, it's an interesting race weekend. But yeah, full credit to our race director today. We've had some criticism for him over the year, but it has to be said he's kept a cool head today and really dealt with this rather well. Because as a race director, and I have actually done this in another league before this job of race director, it is quite stressful when everything like this goes wrong. Because you're basically the one that everybody's looking at and saying, well, you're trying to sort out all the problems that are going on behind the scenes. It's not an easy job when something like this happens.
True. No, but nevertheless, I don't even look at it that way. But yeah, the show just must go on. But we are going on, and the race will be driven today, and will be raced off. So
race 1 was won by Morgan Buran. In race 1 in inverted commas. Race 2, Peter Berliak was leading when that was cancelled. Here we go for the 3rd time. And with I hope you don't. I hope it's not going to be your bedtime by the end of this, Chris. By the way, I hope you're not going to have to, disappear halfway through.
I thought you were like 18 or 17.
It is getting pretty, I must say.
Well, my bedtime. I mean, come on. Okay, anyway, here we go once more. The lights are almost off, and we are racing right now. Morgan Morant gets off the line pretty decently, and the field is underway. Peter Briljak already squeezing Morant, but couldn't get the effort in. And a clean first corner, and that's just a relief.
Yeah, there's a cone that's gone missing. That's about it. There's a couple of of the cars of Mad Cape Racing Team cars, I think, off in the background. But other than that, everybody else was through there cleanly. Berliak is managing to have a much better start the second two occasions, which is good for him because, of course, he had such a poor start in the first race, and that was down in 6th place. But he has got pace as Berliak, make no mistake about it. As Keithley, I think, comes up the inside. Oh, that's going to get close. He does manage to make... I think he made a little bit of contact.
Simons loses his front wing end plate.
Bono Weiss has had a terrible start because, well, I say he's not a terrible start, actually, he's still 9th, but, and Patrick de Witt is 12th, so he's had an even better start than he had the first time. They make
contact, but he is in front of Carlos Martin now. No, Carlos Martin retakes the position, and Patrick actually crashes to his teammate, Marcel.
I don't think he quite hit Van der Linden, but the reason he didn't hit was because of a very... He was managed to hold on to it, but de Witt has had an even better start than he had in the first race, I think, because he's up to 13th and we haven't even made the end of the first lap yet. So Morgan Moran then leads by 9/10. Peter Berliak is in 2nd place, Rob van Starkenburg 3rd, Toman across the line as well. Weiss is in 9th and he's not making much progress. Oslakovic is in front of him. Oslakovic is looking very strong this weekend, Chris, it has to be said. He's looking very good.
Yeah, he's eager to get a good performance in, and he definitely has a chance now in 8th position. Johnny Simon actually in 10th position doing a good job. Carlos Martin having a bad start in 11th right now. Just don't hope he has any damage whatsoever. And Marcel van der Linden in 12th spot. So.
And Weiss cannot get past Oslakovic, and he's got Simon up the inside. Weiss might lose a position here. But no, and Oslakovic gets round Simoncic for 7th. So Luka Oslakovic is proving a bit of a star this weekend because he's going to have a go at getting past Kostadinov. He doesn't make that one stick, but he is looking very, very racy this weekend.
And Bono now pressuring Simoncic. Will he get an attempt?
I don't think he'll get up the inside there.
Dion Kostadinov in 6th place. He will be definitely happy with his start.
Peter Berliak, meanwhile, has managed to stay within the 2nd for the moment, so he's actually close slightly on Morgan Moran that time around. He's got it down to 9/10. It was nearly a second before, so from that last sector anyway, and that means now that he might be able to keep within the DRS zone, which will keep him closer to Moran. That's very important, that. Carlos Martin then up the inside of Johnny Simon, down into turn 2. Can he get that to stick? I think he can, and he does.
Yeah, he can. Good move from Martin. Simon actually pushing him wide, and Patrick de Witt.
Van der Linden, and now de Witt's going to be on Simon. Yeah.
Yeah, but de Witt actually made contact with him there as well.
Oh, Patrick, no. What was that all about? He pulled across on Simon during the braking zone, I think. I'm sorry that. Oh, we're just going to have a replay of it, try and work out the pieces. John Eric Saxon has picked up from that because he's up into 11th, and I'm just looking now at the... well, yeah, it was. I think it was a little bit of de Witt coming over, and that's not good.
No, that was Simon's fault.
You think so? It's difficult.
Yeah, he went to the left.
Right, okay, that's good. That's good. So we've seen that, but Johnny Simon has actually come off worse out of that, so he's now out of the race, I think.
Well, it is 4 AM in Australia. I mean, even respect for him driving at 4 o'clock at night, so...
Well, it just goes to prove that tiredness does indeed kill. So all those notes that you see on the road, they're absolutely right. There's the proof. And Kolarec, obviously, is our DNF so far. Simon is actually still going. He's down in 22nd position. He's still ahead of a couple of guys, in fact, but he has managed to carry on. He will need a pit stop, I think, though.
Yeah, and Carlos Martin, I don't know if he sustained any damage so far, but he would be in a good position to overtake Johnny Simoncic if he has the top speed, however.
Peter Berliak is right on Morgan Moran's tail, and he's closed that gap by 3/10. He's down to 6/10 of a second. They're dropping Van Starkenburg, who is almost out of the DRS zone. I think that Precision and their GT Omega cars have made a bit of a mistake this weekend with the top speed, because they're just not able to keep up down the straights, and that's why Weiss is only 8th after 3 laps. He would normally make much more progress than that, you would have thought, but they just don't have the straight line speed.
No, indeed, and it's interesting to see, and I'm curious how he will handle with the situation being the driver that he is. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's going to have to find everything from his locker to make the passes stick, and he's going to have to do it probably in places that you wouldn't normally put as the overtaking places.
Indeed, because I do think that what you said was right. When he has a slow top speed, and it's definitely crucial to not have a slow top speed here, because you will not have the opportunity to overtake in sector 3. Probably not as well in sector 1. So it's basically that one straight where you have the opportunity to even get a move in, and he's lacking there. I mean, if we just can get on board with him, he can open his DRS now, but so can Luka Oslakovic, but he struggles to do so.
Top speed of Huis, 3:15. I mean, that's a lot down on what the others have been doing.
Exactly.
See, I've seen 3:18 and 3:19 was quite common. There were some even up in 3:20 odd. 3:15 is well, it's tardy, to be honest, in a straight line. So Huis is going to have to work really hard, although Oslakovic makes a mistake, and that might give Huis a chance. Round the outside, that's going to be a brave move. If he's going to pull that off, Oslakovic is still going to have the inside for this next corner. Going to be difficult for Huis. Oslakovic just needs to maintain his line, keeps the position.
Definitely trying there for Hughes.
But it's going to be difficult, and that's what he said. He's having to make those. Well, that's done it.
So he gets it on a silver plate there, Bono. But nevertheless, he's passed.
He is. The only trouble he's going to have now
in a mistake.
Well, yeah, but I'm a bit worried about how susceptible he's going to be to Simoncic, because Simoncic is right there with him, and Huis is not in the DRS zone of the car in front. And we already know the car's slow with the DRS on, so it's interesting to see. Will Simoncic overtake, although he has actually gained a fair bit on Simoncic just in that first sector, so that might protect him. But Huis is, let's see what his top speed is without DRS. This is going to be interesting. So let's see down the straight.
I do think that Patrick de Witt sustained a stop and go penalty there.
Right, okay. And the top speed for Bono Huis without DRS, 300. How poor is that?
Well, and there's a crash in the Jim Paresis has crashed together with Oslakovic once more into the hairpin. That's really
what happened there was, I think Paresis went into the corner way too deep. He was trying to overtake Patrick de Witt, and yes, he did. He went in way too deep, locked up the brakes, and just blindsided the back of Oslakovic's car. It does seem like everybody has gone a little bit mad today.
I'm just curious at Patrick de Witt now, if he has sustained a
the other thing I will say, I'm just wondering if Jim Paresis has got some problems, because he stayed out on the exit of that hairpin for quite a long time before pressing escape. He's now left the game, so he is out of the race. De Witt, meanwhile, has had a stop-and-go penalty, but is still only 16.7 seconds behind the leader, despite
Does
that
he have a
12.
stop-and-go?
Well, the thing that, has he been in the pits at all? I don't know, maybe he hasn't. For a moment, his sector time's disappeared. So
I don't know if we can check it, but...
It went, the colour, it went to disappeared the time he was behind the leader, and I thought that he might have been in the pits because of that, but he hasn't. Huis, by the way, is not making much inroad into Kostadinov. He's 1.3 seconds behind him, and Martin has now passed Simoncic for 8th place. So Carlos Martin up into 8th. Now the interesting thing is, can he close down on Bono Huis, because Huis is susceptible today. Berliak, meanwhile, is now just 7/10. I mean, what's happened to Moran? He's lost a lot of time all of a sudden.
Yeah, or maybe he's just holding back, I don't know, but he's certainly not pulling away from Berliak at the moment, and Rob
is losing a lot
in
of
as well.
time. Just going to look at the lap times this time around as they come through. The last lap was a 21.1 from around. This one's a 20.9. Peter Berliak, meanwhile, has done a 20.8 and a 20.7. So over the course of just 2 laps has gained about 5/6 tenths on Morgan Moran. He's going to be all over him down the straight here. Actually doesn't get too good an exit from turn 2, so that won't help him. But Berliak, we know the Twister cars. Now you see, this is going to be the difference. Let's have a look at the Twister in a straight line. We saw Bono Huis 315. Twister don't have the greatest straight line speed either, but look at the difference there. He's got up to 318 kilometers an hour. So an hour doesn't sound a lot, Chris, but it can make a big difference.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly.
So Berliak, if very close now to Moran. And Moran, interestingly, doesn't seem to be able to keep those guys alive for very long because he seems to be struggling now on the super time. We're only on lap 8.
Yeah, and already the field is spreading out a bit. People and drivers are starting to get their grid slots and get their position on grid. But
Weiss has caught Stadanov. He's going to pass him though, which is a very different thing.
Yeah, definitely around here and with his top speed. But
so the gap across the line this time is 6/10. Berliak is keeping close to Morgan Moran, and Van Starkenburg is following him. And in the background is Yuri Toman, the man who has already won 2 races this weekend. Can he get himself involved in this battle as well? Berliak is closer than he was last time around. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make the pass down into the hairpin though. Interestingly, just a point of note, this corner that they're going through now, yes, it is considered a corner despite the fact that the DRS is on it, is actually called the Parabolica, would you believe?
Haven't heard that one before.
That's 2 corners in the calendar that are called the Parabolica, that as well. It's due to the shape, of course.
Of course, we will see the Parabolica
discussion
on Monza later this season, because we are returning there. Having said that, next race will be Spa, and then it's Monza, I believe. So
it's the part of the year that I love.
Yeah, brilliant venues coming up.
Monza,
Suzuka as well.
Classic track, Suzuka, absolutely.
Suzuka. Heavy breathing
yeah, everybody
already.
loves Suzuka. It's a driver's track, is that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Berliak,
designed
by the way.
guy.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, that's. They go to far and flung places. But Berliak has got the gap down to half a second to Morgan Moran, which is interesting at this point. Morgan Moran doesn't seem to have the pace that we normally expect of him. You definitely have done right to stick around with this, because this is not going to be a runaway victory by Morgan Moran by any stretch at the moment. Because Stadanov, by the way, is now in the pit lane for Aventa.
Let's see, after 9 laps, that should have called early, I suppose.
And Jim Paresis, we would just like to put out an apology to him. He did look, of course, to us like he braked far too late and hit the back. His monitor went off, and that's why he made the mistake he did. So nothing to do with Jim's driving. I did thought it was a bit out of character. That's why I said that everybody has gone mad today, because Jim doesn't normally get involved in many incidents. So that was the reason for that collision with Oslakovic. Unfortunate for Oslakovic, of course, he was having such a strong weekend, but also unfortunate for Jim as well. And that was what happened
Patrick
there.
DeWitt actually made his first pit stop, although could as well be a drive-through. I don't know for sure, but it looks like a general pit stop.
I don't think it would have been a drive-through, because he'd gone more than 3 laps since
he finds himself in 18th position though.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think you do have to serve a drive-through, a stop and go within 3 laps, do you not? So yeah, so I imagine that was just a general pit stop. It may have been that he had to fix some damage as well. That's the only thing I can think of for the reason for that long stop.
Yeah, Carlos Martin, however, isn't closing up in any way to Bono.
Sorry, Van Starkenburg in the pit lane,
indeed.
Chris. Now this is crucial, of course, because he's so close to the race leader that if he gets the undercut, this might work out for him.
Yeah, let's hope so for him. I mean, Morgan and Peter are actually battling each other. Their awareness of each other will only slow Morgan down maybe a little bit, and Peter just playing catch up here. But he is getting closer.
Saxton.
All right, that's good for him. Then he finds himself into some clean air.
So Berliak now, as you were saying, Chris, has kept that gap down to under half a second, and Morgan Moran has not got the pace we expected. He was so blistering in qualifying again, but you can see the car sliding there, and he's trying to get these tyres to last, albeit he is going further than some of the other guys, but it does look like he's having a real struggle on his hands.
Yeah, he does. And talking about Van Starkenburg, it's necessary for him now in order to get through the pack as fast as possible in order to make the maximum out of his stint. But it's easier said than done, of course.
And Moran in the pit lane, and Berliak is going to follow him, I think. Daniel Brewer is out of the race, unfortunately. Is that going to leave Yuri Toman? Yes, it is. Yuri Toman will lead.
They're on the pits.
No, he's in the pit as
Bono
well.
will lead this race. Bono is the only one who's continuing out of the top 5. He
right,
finds
so
himself now
Bono
P1.
to the lead, which I never would have thought a few laps ago. But they go.
Morgan
What happened there? What was all that about?
Epic pit stop here. Epic pit stop battles.
Right, that's interesting.
He had to run around him.
So he went around to the right because he couldn't go around to the left. Because, right, Peterburlia could come into his pit stop.
And Rob has actually jumped him. Rob actually jumped Morgan Moran, so what you said actually came true. Rob from Starkenburg finds himself effectively in the race.
But, of course, Moran is going to have the DRS here, so this is now Van Starkenburg going to be under pressure. Down into the hairpin. Here we go. Morgan Moran up the inside and gets that move to stick very easily indeed, but you will have to watch for the cutback. Van Starkenburg will get a better exit, and that's exactly what happens, but Moran gets good grip away and manages to keep the position. And he's got Carlos Martin, his teammate, just about 6 seconds up the road from him.
Yeah, and it's now at least the pay. There's at least some payoff in the pit stop of Rob van Starkenburg. Yes, he pitted 1 lap earlier, but he finds himself now in the back of Morant, where 1 lap earlier there was Peter, and he's now behind Rob. So definitely had some dividend on that call.
Well, Huis is in the pit lane as well now. I've been looking at Huis's lap times.
So is Carlos Martin.
Pretty inconsistent, it has to be said. Huis not having the weekend that he would like this weekend, and his lap times have been going up from 21.2s and then into 20.7s. As they're making it very...
They do this.
Yeah, now I think I wouldn't like to think there's any dirty tactics going on here in the pit lane, but it does seem like drivers seem to be blocking each other when they're coming in front of them. Carlos Martin went around to the right there to come back into his pit lane.
The unfortunate thing is that the pit box of Carlos Martin was right in front of Bono's. So he went across side, and then he got a little bit out of line, out of shape on his parking spot, which made Bono to go the right way.
It's a good deal, but actually, it's a very nice.
Marcel van der Linden on Yuri Tolman, sorry to interrupt you, he's on the inside. Yuri Tolman should be able to stick onto this position. And indeed, Marcel van der Linden slots behind him. So there is a small gap here. No, he's not going for it wisely. And Jack Keatley, however, gets under pressure by Mike.
Does show, though, that I think you are better off on the harder tyre here this weekend. Van der Linden's going in a very good position, and he was nowhere. But he's keeping up with guys who are on new, fresh soft tyres, because those super soft tyres rather, because those soft tyres are holding on quite nicely at the moment. Although, as I said, they didn't really even quite last a 20-lap race yesterday, so you can't imagine it'll be long before Van der Linden has to pit.
And the big winner from this pit stop series is definitely Rob van Starkenburg. Finds himself now in 2nd place, and definitely made the best call there.
And I would say the big loser is Bono Huis, who is now 3 seconds back from Kostadinov, or was. He's closed that gap now back to 1.8. It was 3 seconds after the pit stop, so he didn't work out for him because he was right behind Kostadinov, of course, before the pit stops.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Oh, and Dion Kostadinov finds himself off track. This surely allows Bono to pass through without any hard maneuvers.
But he's got a low top speed, and that might allow Kostadinov to come back.
But he does have DRS. He's already made the move, and he's in front of Kostadinov.
If he had the DRS, that helped him, yeah.
So Bono there capitalizing on a mistake of Dion, and he will stretch himself behind the steers for that one.
Just goes to show, though, that as soon as Kostadinov got in the slipstream, even though Huis had DRS, he was pretty much at the same pace as Huis again pretty quickly. Which just shows that Precision Motorsports car, really, they have gone for high downforce and grip in Sector 2 and 3 this weekend, rather than
there's
straight
a guy
line
off.
speed.
It's Robert Rootholm. And he is forced to retire on this race. What I think is really weird is that Marcel van der Linden is now battling with Jack Keatley. Marcel was actually behind Patrick a few laps earlier, and he's now in 5th place. And Patrick made 1 pit stop and finds himself in 18th spot. Yeah,
so there's obviously some damage that's gone on there for Vactovit. I think we have to be
Marcel van der Linden, by the way, getting taken here by Jack Keatley.
Down into turn 2.
Ooh, Jack, you're leaving him way too much space. You're being generous, man. Yeah, he actually did take him, but there's DRS on the side of Marcel, though.
And with the DRS and the fact that it's a Precision GTO car, he doesn't breeze past.
No, he doesn't use DRS, actually.
He doesn't, but he got alongside, so no, he didn't breeze past because he didn't use the DRS. Maybe, I'm not sure whether the detection zone is just on the entry there into turn 3, I believe, and it's on the exit of turn 2 into turn 3.
One of them should, so.
Yeah, neither use it. So somebody's not paying attention. Anyway, Huis is now on the back of Van der Linden. So that's the next job.
He will breeze past, obviously.
Well, he should do. He's on newer tyres. So Van der Linden on those older tyres, holding on.
Yeah, and Marcel instantly losing out on Jack Heatley, by the way. Instantly loses a couple of seconds, actually.
Yeah, well, those tyres, and that just shows you he is on the harder compound. Those tyres should not be falling off dramatically, but they are, because he's going very slow. And there, look, 15 completed laps, and he has to pit on the harder tyre.
Yeah, so we might even see a 5-stop, who knows.
So there we go. So we've seen one round of stops already. We are going to have to try and keep up with this today. Van der Linden in the pits at the moment. And Morgan Moran now has a 1.1 second lead over Van Starkenburg. Berliak, meanwhile, has got himself back in the DRS zone of Rob Van Starkenburg. And Bono Huis is 10.3 seconds behind the race leader. And this is great news for Moran because he's going to extend that championship lead quite dramatically at the moment. In fact, with where Huis is at the moment, he'd extend it by 12 points, I believe.
Well, would be certainly nice for the championship standings at his, in his opinion, but he has to still work for it. We're not even halfway, so we're not even on a fourth. So let's see what's going to happen.
Somebody, Sam Jones, our eagle-eyed cameraman, has just spotted the fact that Van Starkenburg is on the super soft tyre and is only going at the same pace as Berliak and Moran, who are both on the soft tyre. So Van Starkenburg really should be passing Morgan Moran, and he's not doing it at the moment because he is on the soft tyre. So that's surprising because I did think there was a little bit of a difference between the two. And Morgan Moran, by the way, this is what we saw in the first stint. For the first few laps, he looks very, very good. Then it just starts to go away from him a little bit and everybody else starts coming back to him. And it's exactly what happened in stint 1 and it's happening again here. They're coming back at him.
Oh, and who spun there? Oh, nobody, never mind.
I think it was Patrick, was it not? He was locking up into the hairpin. I don't think he actually span out, just a lock up.
Johnny Simon, by the way, is still driving in 19th place.
Yeah, the two of them actually who had that collision earlier on, they've obviously both got suspension damage because neither's going particularly quickly, but they are still in the race. So not worked out well for Patrick today, is it? You'd have to say that whilst ever a lot of people feel De Vit gets himself... Yeah, there he is. Whilst ever people think De Vit, and that was actually, I think, just getting out of the way of the leaders, whilst ever people think that he gets involved in a lot of incidents, and some of them his fault, today he's just been very unlucky in a lot of regards because the first race was going extremely well for him. And then in the restart, he had some collision with Johnny Simon, which I wrongly called as his fault on review. It was probably Simon's fault. And that has resulted in him, well, he's not going to get any points today. I think that's fairly certain.
It could be Canada all over again, though, but...
Well, this is true. But I wouldn't like to predict anything too much today. Morgan Moran, I don't quite know what's going on with Morgan, to be perfectly honest. His lap times are very inconsistent because he now pulled out 7/10 again on that last lap and a half from Rob Van Starkenburg. So after losing about 5 or 6 tenths, he's gained it again. So I'm not quite...
the wearage on the tyres of Rob are definitely increasing each lap much more dramatically than Morgan. Yeah, Toman still has half a second in order to catch Brilliant. Yeah, Patrick now just going out of the way completely. I mean, he's driving a lost race already in 20th place, getting lapped.
Right, this is going to be interesting. Bono Huis is coming up behind Jack Heatley. Now, earlier in the year, we had a discussion with Precision and GT Omega, and they assured us that it was Van Starkenburg's decision to let Huis through, and that it was only done because Huis was on a totally different strategy and they were on different tyres, and Van Starkenburg's tyres were older. There is no difference between these tyres now. Let's see what happens.
Well, I think in that order, I mean, Felipe Massa just should have said 4 years ago, no, it was clearly my decision and no problem and no harm done. But
well, everybody knew it wasn't.
You know, it was his decision, of course, and well, in a way, it was Massa's decision as well, and his only decision to lift. You know, so
yeah,
in a way, it's his decision.
Probably wouldn't have been in a job very long,
it's racers' language, you know, like Alan Prost saying in '89, no, it was my corner with Senna. You know, it's completely ridiculous, of course, but that's a racer. You can't admit, you know, you have to be convinced of your own standpoint. Yeah, that's why you're often fast.
Sorry, Chris. Toman has got past Peter Berliak and into third place. And Bono Huys and Jack Keighley just pulls out the way. What a surprise.
Yeah. Definitely he made up his mind there.
I'm afraid that's not on. We should not have other teams pulling over for another team. It's fine if we can sort of accept it if it's between two teams, cars from the same team. When it's a different team, it should not be happening because that gives certain cars a big advantage because they've essentially got 3 guys who will just pull out the way for them.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not nice to watch, but nevertheless, it's their decision. But it says more about Jack Keighley being supposedly the dog of Bono. Just you know, he can shush it down, and if he likes to, and no, it's no problem.
Yep. So that's Van Starkenburg has suddenly picked up the pace again. It's not conventional, is it, this track for the tyre wear? Because you see some drivers who, for a couple of laps, their tyres seem to go off and then they suddenly come back again. It's been a very bizarre tyre wear pattern this weekend.
Yeah, and the bizarre weekend in general. I mean, we have already had a 1 hour delay, and we're now on lap 20. So
I have to say,
it's going to be a wearage.
It does make it quite exciting, though, in terms of the actual, because you're never quite sure who's going to be fastest on any given lap. And it does mean that, you know, the driver seems to be pulling away. It won't necessarily carry on that way. And Yuri Toman is just trying to, the cameraman's just trying to tell us about some incident that's happened with Toman and Martin, but they're nowhere near each other, so I'm trying.
I think in the hairpin. Dion Kostelinov, let's see.
Right,
well,
so
never mind it. Let's focus
yeah,
back
I think
the racing.
Kostadinov's been off somewhere because he's down to 9th and he was behind Bono, wasn't he? So unless he's been in the pit lane again.
Either way, it's Bono
right,
now.
So Carlos Martin, we've told, has spun Dion Kostadinov at the hairpins. We've had another bit of handbags at 2 paces, but there we go. There's a lot of drivers that are misbehaving. I suspect that they're all going to have to enter Mr. Mayaki's office a bit later on and have a bit of a talking to, a bit of detention.
I don't know.
It's going to be he's going to have to don his headmaster's cap and hand out a bit of a talking to some drivers this evening, Edward Mayaki, I think, because unfortunately for him, we thought that he might have got away with it after the first race was quite eventful and then was restarted, but it's been every bit as eventful. Now Van Starkenburg's off. He's hit the gravel. That's going to give Toman round the outside, and he does, and into second position. So Van Starkenburg just went wide, and it's so easy to go wide there. We were talking about that earlier on, and that's exactly what he's done, and I suspect that his tyres are shot. And he's already made 1 stop, and he's 20 laps into the race, so really not lasting very well at all.
This is, of course, really unfortunate, since Rob is driving for GT Omega. He most likely will not be allowed to pass Yuri Tolman in second place, because it's precision. So let's see how that will form out.
Yeah, so, well, Berliak's right behind him as well now, so he's going to have to watch out for him. Berliak's been fast all weekend.
Yeah, but Bono is closing up too, so he might have to open the door once more.
Bono Huys has been faster than anyone else over recent laps because he's 7 meters, and you remember early on we were talking about that being a 10-second gap, so it's obviously come down. So maybe, you know, Huys is not out of this race yet. Let's not discount him,
no, definitely not.
Especially given that 2 of the 3 cars he's got to pass are probably just going to get out of the way.
Yeah, Morgan Moran now extending his lead over Yuri Tolman. Of course, it was Rob from Starkenburg, but there was a clutch up just a minute ago. He has now a 3-second lead over Yuri Tolman. Morgan Moran in first place, and that's, so to say, comfortably.
Yeah, and Toman actually going faster than Morgan Moran at the moment. Just closed in that sector, went down from 2.9 to 2.8 seconds. So Toman now has got to look at himself. He's thinking to himself, I could get 3 race wins this weekend, and that would be a first in FSR's history.
Yeah, well, let's see if he can.
It'd be interesting to see with Yuri. I mean, with this weekend that he's had, would he want to pull out of the way of Huys?
Rob is in the pits once more. Let's see what a tyre compound he goes to.
Yes, it'd be interesting. I think it'd be great, actually, if Weiss does fall out of the championship some point later on in the year, then we can just see them racing each other. That would be nice.
Oh, he overshoots his box, actually. He misses the pit box and he goes back onto the super soft once more.
Well, Van Starkenburg, I don't know if he's working on a 5-6 stop strategy or something, but he's obviously decided he prefers the super soft tyre. Trouble is, he's only lasting an average of 11 laps per stint at the moment, which is going to be interesting. So that's going to be a 5-stop race the way he's going.
Yeah, let's see if it makes any sense later on, but at this moment he finds himself in 8th place. Definitely lost out. He won so much in the first pit stop and then he lost it all in the second, and with that tiny mistake as well. And
tiny mistakes can make a big difference, especially, I mean, that pit stop mistake, it looks so small, but in actual fact it probably cost him a good 5 or 6 seconds, because you've got to get yourself into reverse, then you've got to get yourself back into the pit box, make sure you're lined up, and then the pit stop starts.
No, 5, 6, nah, it will add up, but it's more like 2 or 3 seconds. But nevertheless, it's a second. A second is already huge. So, no, what I want to see though is Bono versus Jiri Toman. I want to see if they have any T-boarders there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is what I was saying, because Toman is having such a good weekend, he probably thinks to himself, I want to have another go at winning a race.
Keithley in the pits.
Toman as well, so Toman and Keithley both in the pit lane. That releases Berliak and Weiss. Now, what does Jiri Toman go on to in terms of tyres?
Super softs.
So he stays on the super soft. Now he is doing a very similar strategy to Rob Van Starkenburg at the moment, but it seems to be working a little bit better for him. He stays in 4th, so he's a bit ahead of Van Starkenburg, and of course Van Starkenburg made that mistake, which won't have helped with that.
Yeah, indeed, they were both at the same grid just a minute ago, but they... Oh no, the time actually added up. It's now 4 seconds between Jiri Toman and Rob Starkenburg. Lost about 3 seconds there.
Right, so there we go. So Van Starkenburg down the outside of Simoncic. Forward, he's on the newer tyres. Simoncic isn't going to give it up. Oh dear. And Simoncic nearly ended up going off, firing himself off into the scenery there, but manages to keep it on the black stuff.
And Morgan Moran has just put the
foot down. He's got the gap out to 6.2 seconds to Berliak. He's gained about a second on the last lap or so, so Moran just starting to put the foot down a little bit now, and of course he's on the harder of the 2 compounds, so he might be going for a little bit longer yet.
Yeah, definitely, and he already has a 6.4 second advantage over Peter Berliak, and it's only increasing at this point. So Bono there behind it, it's with 7.8 seconds to spare, and after that lot it's Jiri Toman on almost 20 seconds. So definitely the top 3 already basically decided here, if nothing bad happened.
I'm just going to let you talk for a second, Chris, because I need a glass of water, and we've been going for a bit longer than we normally do.
Yeah,
I'll be back in 2 ticks. I'm nearly in the kitchen anyway.
So as we're getting 2 ticks from my fellow colleague here, let's have an eye on Morgan Morant. He is still driving pretty comfortably. He is being in the groove here, and that's the best advantage you have when you're in the leading position. You have the cleanest air of all airs on the track, and you can decide the pace. You know, if you gain half a second a lap, you only have to do that 6 or 7 or 8 laps, and then you can groove onto your own pace in order to save the tires a little bit. However, Morgan Morant is pitting this lap. However, let's see how Peter Berliak reacts. Yeah, he's pitting as well. So you've came back into a pit stop mayhem here. Morgan Morant in the pits, Peter Berliak in the pits, Bono in the pits.
Right, so this is interesting then. So
if nobody shares a grid slot,
just the right time. Oh dear, Bono.
Peter Berliak actually shared a slot with Morgan Morant.
Yeah, so that was just about right, because if Berliak had come in any earlier and had been
Bono
any
is the loser here. Bono is the loser here. He will lose out to Berliak with a few seconds.
Yeah, but I think he was already behind him
and
anyway,
Jack
was he not?
in front of him?
So now Keithley's got to let Weiss through again, so we're going to have that whole from
most
Gerard,
likely. I mean,
Gerard going on again.
It is Precision versus GT Omega, so Bono in the radio. On the radio already.
Let me through.
Okay, and this is the moment where Jack Keithley hears that Bono is faster there.
Yep, that's the one. Weiss weaving around on the stick just in case he doesn't know. David Greco, by the way, I'd like to give a little bit of shout out to him from the back of the grid. He's in 7th place. That's
yeah,
very good.
He's doing great. He's definitely doing great. Certainly doing great for a guy who's working for Codemasters. Hi, David Greco. But no.
Can you get us any free stuff?
Free stuff? You don't want to drive F1 2014, please?
Well, I don't mind if I get it for free.
Nah, that's not the spirit. I mean, if you pay a little bit, you get a lot in return. I mean, just look at FSR. But no, it's nevertheless, he's doing a great job in 7th place because he had a back of the grid as well, starting in, I believe, 23rd or 22nd position. So keep it up, David Greco. Bono, however, getting close up to the gearbox of Jack Keithley. We have been messing around a little bit with them, but will he actually be let through by Jack Keithley?
Will he actually have to do an overtake and do what drivers should have to do? That is what my question is.
I don't know.
I always thought racing was about overtaking, but there you go. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, you're not wrong.
Here we go. So let's see. Is Weiss going to have to overtake this time, or is Keithley just going to pull wide in the hairpin and let him through like he did last time? So invite out. And
there we go.
Defend. There we go.
Nope.
And on the brakes very early, nice and easy. Bono Weiss can, to be quite honest, Bono Weiss could have read the newspaper and still made that move at the same time. That's how easy that was. If
I wouldn't be a commentator, I would definitely say something to Jack Keithley right now, but I'm not. Either way, that's his decision, obviously, and it allowed even faster in order to get back at Peter Briljak, because now that he's into the groove already, Bono wants this podium. He can definitely get into reach. I mean, it's only, having said that, only 4 seconds to Rolf van Starkenburg.
Well, to be honest, he's effectively third, because two of the guys, unless Toman doesn't play ball, two of the guys in front of him could, if they wanted to, pull back later in the race to give Weiss maximum points so that he can get as close to Moran as possible, at least.
Bono going wide there.
I know that's cynical, but given what we've already seen, it's probably also realistic.
Yeah, let's see. Now it's my turn for a quick be right back.
Yep, no worries. And Bono Weiss is in 5th position, with me and Chris having to take water breaks so that we can keep our voices going. It's very difficult talking for 4 hours. We don't normally used to that. So Weiss in 5th position. He's closing down on Briljak very quickly indeed. Briljak, of course, won't let him through. He's a Twister racing car, so this is going to be a lot more difficult. Toman, meanwhile, has got the gap down to Morgan Moran to 2.2 seconds. He is flying in this race, Yuri Toman, and he wants to make FSR history. We talked about the fact that nobody has ever won 3 races in one weekend before in FSR, although he has just lost 4/10 to Morgan Moran in the last sector, which either means that Morgan's putting his foot down or Toman is just made a little mistake there. And as Van Starkenburg kicked off a bit of dust, he seems to like that gravel. That's to be said. He's been there a couple of times already and very nearly again, but just stays off it. As Chris is back. And we assure you, by the way, that me and Chris are on the water. It's not beer or wine.
Blair Disley hasn't.
At least he's not in my case.
Hey?
Well, I said I could speak for myself, but I'm not sure.
No, okay. But Bono here in 5th place, still chasing on Peter Briljak. He is getting closer though. Only half a second between those guys. Morgan, however, 3 seconds now to Yuri, so that gap is stable, so to speak.
Yeah, so at the moment then, Weiss right behind, and as you can see, Briljak, there's nothing, no pulling out of the way from Briljak, and Weiss, of course, has not got any straight line speed, so it's not going to be easy.
That looked identical to 2 laps earlier, but then, you know, he actually defended.
Yeah, he did what drivers should do.
Yeah, definitely getting agitated on that subject, and you would be right. Nevertheless, he has to work along this lot in order to get to the podium spot, although it is Rolf van Starkenburg in 3rd place, so don't know.
Well, don't get me wrong, if somebody was in my own team and they were battling for the championship and they were clearly much faster than me, I would pull out of the way from my own teammate. But when it comes to pulling out of the way from sister teams or whatever, I think that's unhealthy for the viewing, for the viewers and for us and for drivers, because we want to see drivers battling each other. We want to see some good performances from drivers where they're able to battle with the best guys.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Jean-Eric Byrne, you know, you desperately want to see for next year, so you better pull out the way for that crazy upgrade.
But ultimately, will you not get a driver, another top team if you show that you're a great driver and
Indeed.
you can battle with Bono Weiss.
Indeed, decision making.
So that would be my opinion. If I was in Jack Keighley's position, I don't care what they said to me, I would not have let Bono Weiss through, but that's just me. So there we go. So that's that'll be why I will never get hired for GT Omega Racing. Just making the point, actually, some judges noticed that Bono Weiss is missing a front wing end plate. I was asking how much effect that makes on these cars. It will make a little bit, but I don't think it'll be as much as it would be in real life on these cars. I think you do have to lose a little bit more of the front wing to cause a real effect in FSR. I don't know what you would think about that, Chris.
I think it's not really that noticeable, and also in real Formula 1, it's not really that noticeable, to be honest. If it's just the end plate, we have seen it in the past, and actually, I believe it was Mark Webber who actually did some fastest laps. Or no, Felipe Massa who actually did some fastest laps in a Ferrari when part of his nose was missing. So, no, I don't know.
I'm surprised they didn't actually turn up to the next race with it just built like that, knowing F1 teams, but there you go. They didn't. But Weiss now, and Weiss has actually lost time to Berliak. I think the problem is that Berliak is now in the slipstream of Van Starkenburg in third place, who gets well out of shape down into the hairpin, Van Starkenburg, and held on to it quite nicely. Sim, an awful lot of drifting moments in that corner this weekend.
Yeah, definitely, and a
like
lot of drivers
Japanese...
trying to get the maximum out of the track limits here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's like watching those Japanese drifters that you sometimes see on the television. They do it a lot over there. It's almost like watching them through the hairpin this weekend.
Well, I believe they do a lot of weird things in Japan, don't they?
They do.
Eat living squids and stuff. Ugh.
If you want a good laugh, by the way, there is if you look for Japanese Formula 1 commentary funny on YouTube, you will find them absolutely hilarious. They really do bris up, that's for certain. Their enthusiasm as commentators, it's quite incredible.
Oh no, definitely not. Japanese people.
Their enthusiasm. If you've ever listened to Japanese commentary on any kind of motorsport, they really do go for it.
I guess.
But anyway, Berliak is now within 6/10 of Van Starkenburg. He's going to have the DRS. Weiss will have the DRS on Berliak, but I suspect that will be less useful than it will be for Berliak, because as one of the back markers gets nicely out of the way. Berliak not so quick though, actually, down the straight that time
315.
around. No, he didn't. I don't think he used the DRS, which I'm not quite sure why that was, because 315 is a lot slower than he was doing earlier on in the DRS. So I can only assume he didn't use it, which I'm slightly surprised by, because he definitely was within a second of Van Starkenburg. There we go. So, and also, of course, the fuel is lower now. Well, that's strange, because the fuel's lower now, and I remember distinctly we were comparing him with Weiss earlier on, and he hit 318. So, not quite sure what that would be. I mean, the only other explanation for it is if the engine has lost a bit of its health, and that sometimes makes it a little bit down on power. A few drivers who have driven in our factory in the past will know that once the engine starts to wear a little bit, sometimes you lose a little bit of power. But I can't imagine that 32 laps into a race we're going to be having that problem.
No, indeed. Van Starkenburg is about to get into a problem though, because if he has to manage on and hang on to this position, because of course he still has the buffer of Peter Berliak in between him and Bono. If he loses that buffer, he eventually will hear another radio message and he has to make way. So it's definitely important for Rob to keep on the pace, keep on the throttle up. Any chance for him to get a podium, it seems.
Yeah, the problem is though for Weiss that he can't get past Berliak. He hasn't got the straight line speed, and Berliak...
that's good for Rob. As long as
it is very good
in
for
between,
Rob.
He doesn't have to let Bono pass.
Absolutely. So Rob Van Starkenburg at the moment is trying desperately to stay in front of Berliak, and he knows that Berliak has got better straight line speed than Weiss, and of course Berliak has got a pretty solid car because he's been fast most of the weekend, so it's not going to be easy for Weiss to make the move in the corners either, because unlike some of the drivers that he's been overtaking earlier on, Berliak's probably not going to make many mistakes.
No, he's a very steady driver. He's of course last year's World Series champion, which is the comparison to Ace. Yeah, but yeah, last year it was still called World Series. Berliak obviously knows how to drive, so let's see what he can make of this. And he's driving for Twister, which is a top team. So
yeah, and he gets a very good exit out of that last corner, I've noticed as well. So yeah, he has a.
As we have just gone halfway into the race.
We have indeed, and 33 laps complete. Oh.
Ooh, there's a mistake of Rob van Starkenburg.
Ran wide, and he's trying to save them.
Oh, they make contact. Oh, Rob, what are you doing? What are you doing, mate?
Well, that's going to help out Bono Huis.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have to land fast anymore. But yeah, indeed.
Oh,
Brilliant closing the door there. That's some good defending of Peter here.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But going wide here.
Going to get a better exit.
Opportunistic Bono here, showing off why he's the world champion. But
Brilliant can hold the outside and then have the inside, so that should keep the position.
Bono has to cut across or go on the outside line. He goes for the outside line in order to get back on the inside, but he just can't find the grip and traction there. Nice attempt in though. So, positions have been shifted once more. Peter finds himself now in the 3rd place, Bono in 4th, and Rob van Starkenburg in 5th position. Don't get your hopes up high for Rob in order to pass Bono. It's not going to happen, I guarantee it. What is going to happen is that Bono is getting a lot of pressure under Peter Briljak, but I don't think he has the top speed in order to overtake Peter.
No, he doesn't, and it's going to take something like what just happened. Now, the only problem with that now is that Thoman is 5 seconds up the road, so that's not going to trip Briljak up. The only thing that could trip him up is a back marker, and let's hope that doesn't happen, because we like to think that it's professional enough not to happen in FSR World Championship.
And look who's in the front of Peter Briljak. It's Patrick de Wit.
Oh, he always appears somehow, doesn't he? Anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely it's a tense moment. Now, Patrick is experienced enough in order to let back markers pass.
Well, we saw him pulling off on the grass earlier on. So he can't get much
really
more professional than that. So.
Indeed. Indeed. So Jack Keatley now making his way up to Rob van Starkenburg now, his teammate. Let's see if they battle each other. At the moment,
I imagine they will. That's a slightly different situation. Neither of them are in the championship hunt. I would have thought Keithley and Van Starkenburg, that will be you just drive guys.
I suppose so.
Although if they take each other off, they'll have a massive amount of paperwork to fill out later on.
Yeah, probably a lot of TeamSpeak work to do or Skype, but yeah. So Carlos Martin is still in 7th position. He's hanging on quite nicely, but I did expect a little bit more from him though, after seeing his Q1 performance.
Yeah, it's been very, very good from a number of drivers actually today. We didn't see the usual order of things in qualifying by any means. For those of you who weren't with us earlier on, Bono Huis qualified in 9th place. Carlos Martin, who has been very strong this weekend, only qualified 10th, and that meant that they had to come through. Martin is still 7th, Bono Huis is 4th, but it has lost him a lot of time and it has put him in a position where he's not really been able to battle for the race victory. Having said that, still got 32 laps to go, and he's only 11.1 seconds behind the leader because Morgan Moran has not been as fast as we normally expect of him this weekend, but nevertheless, it has hurt Huis starting lower down.
Yeah, it definitely has, but he's climbing his way back up again. He's finding himself now in 4th position and he's aiming for a podium for sure.
Yeah, he certainly is. Looking down at the lower
Patrick de Wit is off.
Points.
Patrick de Wit is off the track right now. Finds himself into the barrier.
I think Patrick is probably just fed up now, and I think probably he just wants to take the long walk home. And it's
from Germany to Holland.
And he will indeed retire, and that's a shame. He's it's been a weekend to forget for Patrick, and
yeah, he did so well in race 1.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's just one of those disappointing things, and the thing is, the right decision was made to restart the race, but that's just the way it works sometimes. It's just unlucky.
Yuri Thoman pitted. He's now in 4th place, it seems.
Yep, so Thoman has been in the pit lane. Now, this is the interesting thing. He was actually starting to lose quite a lot of time to Morgan Moran and fall back towards Briljak and Huis. Obviously decided.
I don't see. Yeah, surely pitted, but. Oh no,
yeah,
lap time pitted showed up.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
So he's on the super soft tyre again. So he is definitely going for at least a 4-stop strategy. Probably a 5, the way things are going, unless he goes to the soft tyre for the last stint perhaps, so he might do just the 4 stops.
Yeah.
So we are going to see
how...
at least one more though from him, because he hasn't been on the harder tyre yet, I don't think.
Indeed, but I'm curious how Brilliac and Bono will react to this, you know. I mean, they surely see that Morgan is already 10, 11 seconds shy, and he will not be likely to give an advantage like that away. They both do a similar different. They both have a different choice, because Bono is entering the pits right now. Peter is choosing to continue.
Well,
Bono
I think
actually,
that's quite clever.
Yeah, Bono now says, okay, I think second place will be the best possible result here.
Well, let's not forget that Brilliac, basically all he has to do is be within a second of Huis once he's made his pit stop. So he might as well.
And Carlos Martin gets in front of Bono now. So this will definitely cost. No, Carlos Martin is not a guy who will give up a position likely. If we can go on board with Bono, this is actually going to be exciting. Bono actually already going offensive here, pulls on alongside Carlos, and Carlos not defending. So my words there are really empty, to be honest.
Well, Carlos probably thinks that he's got to run his own. Now this is a different situation to what we saw earlier on, because Carlos is on old tyres. It's difficult to hold on to the car at the moment, and he's thinking,
maybe
I'm going to lose a lot of
time. Indeed.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to lose a lot of time battling Huis with the guys
Morgan
that he is
in the
trying
pit,
to keep ahead of.
Morgan is in the pit. So
Yep, so Morgan Moran in the pit lane.
And there's flames in the pit box, no. We will never have anything like that, you know, fire in a pit or something.
Well, it was actually at this circuit, wasn't it? It was in 1994, Jos Verstappen in the Benetton.
Correct.
I think so. It has happened here. I don't think it's liable to happen in an FSR, if I'm perfectly honest.
His son is the newest member of the Red Bull family, and he most likely will drive Formula 1 in 2 years, I think, 3 years.
Yeah, probably
some people
so.
actually say 1 year, but he's 17 then. But yeah, he's an astonishing talent. But for now, it's Morgan going on to Luka Oslakovic, and Oslakovic making way there, being blue flag.
And Bono Huis jumped Peter Brilliac in the pit stops, and the unfortunate thing for Peter Brilliac is that I said that he'd be alright pitting a bit later, providing he stayed within 1 second, but he didn't, so he's now not got the DRS.
That's that one lap that he continued, and it cost him 1.5 seconds effectively.
I tell you who has gained. Yuri Toman's gained about 1.2 seconds on Moran by pitting earlier, because that gap's now just 4.8 seconds.
Yeah, but that's gonna fade off in the end if he stops 1 lap later, I think. I mean, the gap of Morgan is clearly humongous towards the precision, and well,
he's already gone back up to 5.5, so.
Yeah, but I think Morgan is into his groove, and he's in the first place, and he has the cleanest of airs. He's the one who decides what pace they should go at. If he decides to take it a little bit slower, the other guys still have to play catch up and spend a lot of tire wear in order. He's the one that can control this race from this on.
He certainly is. Bono Huis is now trying to close the gap to Yuri Toman, and is doing quite quickly, it has to be said.
Simon Seats is spitting now.
So let's look through this first sector, and it's now down to 3.5 seconds between Toman and Huis. Simoncic in the pits, as you say. I don't know what happened to Junic Simoncic actually. I don't know if he had some contact earlier on, because he was quite high up early on, I remember. Definitely in the top 10, and he's dropped well down the order as the race has gone on. So I'm guessing that that's probably some contact earlier on. There has been quite a lot of contact today, so it's difficult to remember it all.
Yeah, definitely.
And which race it was in.
So indeed, Yuri Toman now on 6.7 seconds from Moran. Would be actually exciting stuff if he manages to catch up. Would be really exciting.
What I'm more intrigued to see is that Bono Huis is catching. Now actually I wouldn't have so much of a problem if Toman moved, because he's in the same team. So
yeah, less of a problem.
That's less of a problem. That happened. We accept that. That's fine. It was more the Van Starkenburg thing, and Toman is actually losing a lot of time at the moment. I think some of that was down to the back markers, which is a bit unfortunate, but he's only 3 seconds ahead of Bono Huis, and he's now 7.3 behind Morgan Moran, who has just suddenly put the hammer down.
Yeah, definitely, and He pretty much has to. I mean, he got the 3rd place out of a smart pit stop move right there. And Peter Briljak having no answer to that. And now he finds himself into 2nd place with his teammate right in front of him with 3 seconds to spare. He now has to catch up towards Yuri and make the pass stick.
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
So we'll see what happens. Mike Partington and Marcel van der Linden have both been in the pit lane. We have 27 laps to go in this. Seems like it's taken for it. Well, it has. It's taken us about 2.5 hours to get to this stage. But Morgan Moran is now 7.8 seconds in the lead and extending his lead on those super soft tyres because he's back on the softer compound now. He was on the harder compound a little bit earlier on. And now Thoman just 2.6 seconds ahead of Bono Huis. So that gap is coming down very, very quickly indeed. Oh, dear me. That was Bono Huis. I think that was one of the, it must have been Oslakovic that was trying to get out of the way in Huis. And Huis's closing speed was so fast he nearly took the nose off.
Yeah, for some reason the car of Bono is kind of invisible at my screen now. I can only see the cockpit. It's really weird, but hopefully nothing is wrong with his car.
No, he's still there. He's still in. I can see the whole thing. He's 10.5 seconds at the moment behind the race leader. He's just 2.4 seconds now behind Yuri Thoman, and he has just passed Oslakovic, which was a little bit more leery than he'd have liked. Briljak, though, is closing that gap to Huis, which is interesting. He's got that down to 1.2 seconds, so he is nearly in the DRS zone again. So Berliak's coming alive. And I just wonder if Twister have set the car up this weekend so that because they know the tyre wear's so high, just so that the tyres don't kick in for a few laps, and then that gives them a bit more of an advantage later on, because he's now got the gap down to 1.1. He is closing on Huis.
Yeah, epic stuff here, what we're seeing, and well, let's see if he can stick and hold on to that. Would definitely be nice, though. We like to see some battle. We
do indeed. That's why we get so cross when we don't give them. And now it's 1.2 seconds, so we're just looking at those last lap time. Yeah, Briljak was he's just been a couple of tenths faster than Huis on the last side of that, so we apologise for the slight delay. We're having to do this the old-fashioned way, because from what I hear, the live timing was taken down, so I'm having to scroll through everything to find the lap times. It's a little bit more rudimentary in the way that we're having to do things, but there we go. We have to work occasionally, don't we, Chris?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and what do you think then with Thoman? Do you think you'd just get out of the way? It's interesting because Yuri's going to think to himself, well,
I don't know.
He's a racer, is Yuri, isn't he? We know that from Ace, and will he just pull out of the way of Bono Huis, or do you think he'll make this a bit more of a challenge?
He shouldn't. I mean, he should be the Ricciardo here and let Bono be Vettel this season.
Well, there are some that would argue that the way things are going, Bono Huis is going to have very little chance of winning the title anyway, because he's got let's face it, he's got a 22-point deficit.
He's got the best chance of the rest of the pack. So in theory, he's the first contender.
And that's how you think as a team, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think Bono should be underestimated. I mean, he's obviously the greatest talent we've had in FSR for the last few years. I mean, that's a fact made out of results. And for me, only the results count as a driver. And it should be like that. And according to that, he's the best. So underestimating him would be a severe mistake in my point of view. Let's just see what's going to happen in the upcoming races. I mean, if Moran happens to get a DNF and Bono capitalizes with a win, he suddenly close. Everything can still happen. Yeah,
he certainly can, and that's the thing. I mean, if that happened, Huis would actually be 3 points ahead, wouldn't he, at current?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's going to be interesting, because from a viewing standpoint, they're going to say, well, we don't really want to see Thoman move out of the way of Huis. But in this situation, as I say, I feel a little bit differently about it because they're both in the same car. So this, in my view, would be acceptable if they chose to do that. And I can perfectly understand why they might, because they might think Huis has actually been faster than Moran slightly over the last few laps. They might think, well, there's still 23 laps to go. Let's give him a chance at catching Moran, because that could be crucial for the championship. It might not happen, but you'll never know if you don't try it.
Indeed. No, I'm really curious to see what will happen next, and well, let's just see. I think if Morant has this race into his pocket, I mean, he has 8.5 seconds to spare. There are 22 laps remaining, and he's experienced enough to drive this one out. However, what's going to happen behind that is really questionable. Peter Briljak has shown he's still got some fighting spirit left in himself, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, there's not a lot of fights going on down the field at the moment. Everybody's spread out a little bit, which means that we haven't... The closest one we've got is Huis and Toman in second and third. The other way around,
Maybe this is a good time to maybe even show off Marcel van der Linden his helmet, if we can get a close-up of that. I've heard he got a new helmet and was eager to show off the design. So if Sam could get a close-up of that, that would be certainly awesome.
I think, am I right in saying that he might have the Senna Foundation logo on there, does he not? Oh, certainly the word Senna. And a very nice white, red and blue number that Marcel van der Linden is sporting this weekend. And just interesting to see the Dutchman. He had a decent race, actually. He was looking pretty good earlier on. Remember, he was running up in 6th at one point. But unfortunately now has fallen back to 13th. But he is still on the lead lap. Marcel van der Linden, the last driver on the lead lap. And a very nice new helmet design there. We like to see nice helmet designs. Unfortunately, mine's just black, but I'm a bit boring, so...
Oh, there you are. Just like Damon Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, in the meantime, Yuri Toman, Bono Huis has now got within a second of Toman. Toman didn't pull out of the way as they went down the straight, but Toman got Huis right behind him, right in his gearbox. And it's going to be interesting to see how this goes over the next couple of laps. Toman is definitely dropping fast. Johnny Simon has now retired from the race. Of course, had that contact with Patrick a bit earlier on.
It's 5 a.m. in the morning now in Australia, so night Johnny there.
Yeah.
Have a nice sleep, Johnny Simon.
Have an hour's sleep, enjoy it. So, what do we reckon then, Chris? What's going to happen here between Toman and Huis?
I reckon they crash each other off. Wouldn't that be something?
It would. You're always so
gone
destructive.
mad. No. I mean, that's with a blink of an eye. I mean, with a wink. I mean,
he's one of those. He's one of those people. I imagine that you're a bit of, a pyromaniac. You like being able to set campfires and all that kind of thing.
Oh no, definitely not. Quite the opposite, actually. No, but it would be the worst case. But no, they are experienced enough. But,
Here we go.
I mean, oh, here we go, indeed. Is he going to let him through?
He's going to let him through, which
no way.
I mean that is.
Come on, Yuri.
We would have liked to have seen a battle, but I can understand that one. I'm gonna let that off because they're both in the same car.
Yeah, Precision here clearly stating they work as a team. Although it's a little bit unfortunate they have.
Well, they work as two teams. Yes.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate bit, but at least they have made a team decision here to let Bono pass in order for the championship, as Jean Todt once said it.
Yes.
Would be funny.
His excellent English pronunciation that he used to. I can't remember if it was Barrichello or Irvine at that time.
Yeah, it was Barrichello on Austria.
Oh, he was at Austria 2002.
Really funny.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it would be really funny if Johannes Koenkool would be on the radio now to Yuri Tolman to let him pass for the championship. And
with
his
I don't think
accent.
he pronounce it like that. He's not. I don't think he's German, not French. But yes.
Achtung, aufmachen. No. But back to
Chris
the race.
is going to get a lot of letters after this race from various countries.
I all mean it's completely friendly, so don't even bother. But Bono does have a 9.2 gap towards Morgan, which is a lot of empty space right there to be filled up, and I don't think he has the pace in order to do it. Actually, Yuri Tolman has no effort into keeping up with Bono, and he's not letting go, so...
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's keeping up with Bono very nicely, in actual fact, is Toman, and, well, we've still got another pit stop to make, so this could still get more complicated yet.
Yeah, might as well be. Might as well be.
So, looking down the grid then, we've got Mike Partington closing on John-Eric Saxon for 11th. They are starting to get quite close together. Partington nearly within the DRS zone. As Simoncic has actually just passed Kostadinov for 9th as well. So, Kostadinov going backwards then during his race. Remember, he was battling with Bono Huis earlier on. He's a long way back now. I mean, Huis is in 2nd in 9 seconds behind. Kostadinov in 10th now and 46 seconds behind.
That's quite a gap.
It is. And you have to... Oh, and he's gone off as well into the gravel slightly. He managed to hold on to it. But not looking like the easiest car to drive that. I think I'd rather be driving... I would almost rather drive a G-Wiz right now than that car.
Wow.
That's how bad it looks. And that's bad, let me tell you.
That G-Wiz.
Yes. For those of you who don't know a G-Wiz, what a G-Wiz is, Wikipedia is your friend.
Although, back to the racing, Peter Briljak has, well, almost seemed to have thrown the towel into the ring. Is losing consistently to Yuri Tolman now, who's working along with Bono in order to get alongside him on towards the podium. And I think they will be rather successful in that, because, however, Peter is 2.5 seconds behind those two. He's not showing any effort of closing the gap.
Yeah, Toman is sticking with Huis really nicely, and this is an excellent advertisement for Yuri Toman. He's thinking, what? Surely he will be in a World Championship drive. Actually, I tell you what, if he gets a good exit here, he would actually be almost passing Huis down the straight, but he won't do that, of course. But he is. You get the feeling at the moment that Toman is every bit as fast as Huis, if not faster. He's just staying behind, as there's a bit of a battle going on there between Paolini and Disley. I think it's Paolini and Disley, is it?
I think it is. Yeah,
Dino Paolini just got past Blair Disley for 14th place. And those boys play for keeps down there. It's amazing actually when you just makes you sure of who's a genuine racer. When you see these guys battling for what is effectively no points, but they still go at it hammer and tongs and give it everything. Really is great to see. These guys, they want every place they can get. It means so much to them, and they just love their racing. And that's, you know that when you see battles like that going on so far down the order.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's all about pride.
Right, Toman in the pits. Now this is what I said about it could get complicated, because Yuri Toman here is going to pit earlier than Bono Huis, which will surely mean that he will be ahead of him when Huis makes his pit stop. So this is where it gets complicated again, and of course Toman's going to have to let him through again, if that's what happens.
Toman is going to go on to the soft tyre, I believe, not the super soft.
He should still be faster though, I should imagine, over these, because the tyres, newer tyres makes a big difference here. We said, I mean, that yesterday that the times were falling off at some point up to 4 seconds in the Ace sprint race. So you would think that he might be able to get back ahead of Huis at this point. It depends on his outlap, of course.
Well, Van Starkenburg now onto the soft tyre as well, the harder compound.
Carlos Martin up into 5th place as a result of that, although I suspect he will get past by Van Starkenburg pretty quickly. Yeah. Not around the straight he won't though, because that is a precision GTO / whatever you want to call it car. Not quite sure these days. And that is now 8/10 behind Carlos Martin, but he probably won't get past the other straights, but he should have superior grip in the corners, and this is a point where when your grip's so superior, it is a lot easier to overtake in the corners than it normally would be. And I imagine that Van Starkenburg should make light work of Carlos Martin.
Yeah, definitely.
And Bono Huis goes round again, so he's not pitting yet. Berliak's in the pit though, and will go on to
the softs, harder compound.
I think you have to go on to the, because the problem is the tyre wear's that bad here that if you go on to the super softs, you're probably not going to make the end of the race from here. Still 16 laps to go, and no one I don't think would make the end on super softs from this distance. So I think you have to go on to the softs really.
Well, Yuri Toman definitely had a little gain of time of a lap he certainly increased the gap between him and Peter Briljak, because it's now 4 seconds. Almost
it is,
4.
and he's also faster than the leader at the moment, which you'd expect. He's on the newer tyres. So we're going to keep an eye out when Bono comes into the pit lane, because it's going to be a question of whether he can get back out in front of Toman. I should imagine he will get out comfortably in front of Berliak, but it is more about Yuri Toman.
Bono will go on to the super softs, I'm sure, because he had the soft stint earlier on in the race with together with Moran.
I don't think you can make it from here. Not judging by what I mean.
No, but he can continue for 2 laps.
Well, he's in now, so.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see what he does. Oh no, he didn't have to share the pit box. That's fortunate for him.
Okay, so he is going for the super soft. So, well, Bono is pretty good on his tyres. So if anyone can make it, it's him. 15 laps to go. It's still, well, it's tight. As we said, in the ace race yesterday, in the sprint race, drivers were really struggling on the harder compound, and that was only a 20-lap race at the end of the race.
Yuri did jump him indeed, so I'm curious to see what will happen there. He's Bono getting stuck behind the back markers. This can only be opportunistic for Peter, though.
Yeah, Berliak will close down massive, and I don't think the back markers have seen Huis, have they?
Yeah, they have seen him. They have seen him, but they're in a fight of their own. This is just really. Oh, Bono hit him!
There's Bono Huis has hit the back, and he's got suspension damage, I think.
Oh, he definitely has some damage.
Well, the car grabbed slightly out of the corner, and now he's going to be under attack from Berliak. Huis surely would have been better off just. I mean,
yeah,
I know.
But it doesn't fit your profile as a racer. You want to get past. You feel like you're how do you say that? You should have been let through in the first place, and well, he's obviously right in my point of view. Even though if you are battling, you have I believe 3 corners in order to do it. But
it's difficult things. You're always battling when you're battling for a champ. Is in the middle of the fact. Well, do I attack? Do I play safe? Do I think championship? You know, if I hold back here, I might get them at the next corner, or just get away a little bit better.
Peter didn't pass.
So difficult.
So he didn't make the pass. So it means he's pretty much in the clear, because with the super soft tires, I think he can manage.
But will Berliak have DRS? That's the question. That will pull him up. I don't think he will actually. I don't think he's quite in the. No, he's 1.1 seconds behind, so just too much. Greco has been in for his last pit stop and has come out in 8th place. And he also has gone for the super soft tyre, so they obviously feel they can get to the end here. But it'd be interesting to see what Huis's lap times are at the end, because he's going to need to close down on Toman again. Toman's not going to let him through unless he gets close. So that seems to be the indication from what was happened earlier on. So Huis has got to actually get close to Toman for that to happen, and he's 3.3 seconds behind at the moment.
Yeah, he is, and really epic to see.
So Morgan Moran then comes out of the pit stop. He has gone on the super soft tyre as well. 13 laps to go. It's a little bit easier than the 16 that Huis needs to do, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he can comfortably drive the last laps, I'm sure.
What I thought was interesting was that Toman and Huis only pitted a lap or 2 apart, and Toman went for the soft tyre and Huis went for the super soft, which suggests that Toman didn't think he could make the end on the super soft tyre. So it must be marginal for Huis. It has to be, because they're in the same car. You would imagine they've got similar setups. So a lap or 2's difference is going to mean it's marginal, surely.
Yeah, but Yuri also using his head. I mean, he probably said to himself, okay, I'm not going to catch Morgan. I will probably slot behind Bono as well. So let me just get to the safe route and get over.
Yeah, not catching him, and he's on the soft compound, which is a surprise. It stayed at 3.36. It's now down to 3 seconds actually. So he's just taken 3/10 out, but it's taken a while for them super softs to kick in, which is a surprise. It's one of those odd tracks this weekend because the grip's so low. The tyres are taking quite a long time to heat up, but then aren't lasting for any more than about 10-15 laps. You normally have one or the other. Here you've got both.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see what happens.
So it's now 2.8 seconds, so he is starting to close that gap. But will Weiser's tyres hang on until the end? What will his lap times be in the last few laps? That's the question, because that is then when he could come under pressure from those behind him.
Yeah, definitely. And if Brilliac can hold
past.
on, he... yeah, but if he really lets him past, I mean, there's still Brilliac behind Bono. And
well, that's exactly it, yeah, because even if he gets past Thoman, if his tyres go off towards the end, Thoman's not going to be able to slow down too much because Brilliac's there.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see because at the moment Brilliac is holding on to Bono quite reasonably, and I think Bono sustained a little bit of damage with the bug marker there. But it's only 2 seconds or 1.8 seconds between Bono and Brilliac, so if there is the slightest of mistakes by Bono, it will be punished immediately.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and quite surprised at the lap times actually. I don't know if this has got anything to do with the real road at the start of the race, but these lap times are actually slower than what we were doing at the end in the sprint race. Although they will be on heavier radiators and ducts, of course. I'd forgotten that. So yeah, that makes sense. It's all right. I'm just going. The brain's stopping working after this length of time.
No.
So down to 2.2 seconds now then from Thoman to Weiss. And Brilliac 2.5 seconds now behind Weiss, so he has lost a bit of time, but he is staying fairly close at the moment. But Thoman faster in the first sector than Weiss, gained another 2 tenths back, he's gone back out to 2.4. Imagine Weiss will catch him at some point. How do Weiss's tyres hold on though? That is the question. Just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:17.961 has Weiss. The first sector through that time, well, a second slower than that though, and nearly 2 tenths slower than his best. We'll see what the middle sector is. Those tyres will go away pretty quickly, pretty sharply towards the end of the race. Fastest middle sector though from Bono Weiss of the race so far, runs wide.
Ooh,
oh, that was
barely
so close to being in the gravel.
Yeah, definitely. Keeping the car on the track though, not doing a Lewis Hamilton or one corner after that. But yeah, this might give Brilliac a little bit of hope.
Well, it's not going to help his tyres any because the tyre wear will be worse now that he's got a bit of dust on his tyres. It was a 1:18.7. He lost about 8 tenths of a second just with that small. Well, there you go. Take your notes and make a note in your diary. Bono Weiss just made a mistake.
Yeah, not the biggest one though.
No, but it does at least prove to us that he is human occasionally.
Oh, of course.
And through the first set, he's now 2.6 behind Thoman, so lost a bit over the course of that lap. Got 10 laps to go. Morgan Moran has a 9.1 second lead, and you would imagine now that it's just a case of him cruising to the end. He's got a good handle on this race. John-Eric Saxon and Mike Partington. Partington has got past Saxon, by the way, bound for 11th place. Remember, we were referring to that a little bit earlier on, but Saxon's still within a second, so that could battle right to the end. But we'll have a look at that. And Rob van Starkenburg is still in 5th place, and he's not far behind. He's within a second, or was for a moment, of Brilliac, so he's not far behind this either, and you can see him there in the background.
Yeah, he's still hanging on and in 5th position, respectively. So yeah, he's not done with his battle yet.
He's not. I think this could get interesting. I know at the moment they're a little bit spread apart, these four, but I think towards the end of the race this might get a little bit interesting. We'll see if I'm right.
Definitely will.
So Morgan Moran, in actual fact, he's lapping a little bit slower than Thoman behind him now, but I imagine that's just control. He doesn't need to lap really fast. There's no need to take any risks. Might as well turn the boost down a little bit, make sure the engine makes the end of the race, and I mean, you would never imagine that the engine's going to explode, but when you're a driver and you've got a bit of a lead, you just don't take any chances. You turn everything down just in case, and it probably would never happen, but you don't want to take any chances.
No, definitely not.
And that is why that it's better to win races by winning with the amount of margin possible. Strange saying, but a lot of people do say that, and
yeah, well,
it's a lot to do with the fact of making sure that you're looking after the car as well, not taking any unnecessary risks. Although Ayrton Senna never used to abide by that, it has to be said.
Yeah, I remember Senna in '88 as well, with him in Monaco having a 45-second gap to crossed
and then
in second
crashing,
place.
which proves the point, you would say.
Well, he admitted once he let go of the steering wheel on accident and it went in the barrier. But yeah, it's those marginal mistakes that can cost you the race. Well, you can just add 5 seconds race time to your race pace and still be the guy to finish first. Although that psychology isn't applied in a winner's mindset, you know. So it will never happen.
Yeah, I remember thinking about that. I remember once in an F1 league, I had a 51-second lead at Monaco. And then coming out of the top of the hill, when you get up to the top of the hill, I think it's Massenet, is it? And you go into the past the casino, I nearly hit the wall on the outside. I had a massive moment and nearly hit the wall, and Senna 88 came into my head at that point. And then all of a sudden I just thought, I went about 2-3 seconds slower the lap for the rest of the race. Then it just wakes you up a little bit.
I guess. So let's not hope one of these drivers will lose any amount of concentration, but nevertheless they still have 7 laps to go. Morgan Moran just completed the 60th lap here.
Weiss is going very quickly at the moment, it has to be said, and he's nearly caught Toman now. The lap through here might be the fastest lap of the race. He's not. He's dropped off. Not a brilliant last sector, 1:8.119, but nevertheless, he's the low 118s. So the tyres holding up well at the moment. 10 laps to go, and we'll see if he can keep them holding on. When did he pit? I'm just looking when he pitted. He pit back on lap 53, actually, according to this. The end of that. It's possible he might last okay, actually. Is it lap 50? No, lap 52. So you pit on 52. So let's see. He's got 15 laps to do on those super soft tyres. At the moment, they're holding up okay.
Yeah, let's see what they can make before the end of this race, and the finish flag will be shown.
Well, at the moment, of course, he's just set the fastest first sector of the race, actually, as Bono Weiss, so it's going okay, I think. But the middle sector is a little bit slower, so let's see. Rob van Starkenburg, I don't know, he's kept very close to Berliat and he's not far away from DRS zone. Be interesting to see if van Starkenburg can maybe attack Berliat, because that would make a little bit of insurance for Weiss as well, if van Starkenburg could get past
yeah, definitely.
Berliat, his little minions helping him out.
No, but I don't think Berliat will get any closer to Bono as he is now, to be honest. But yeah, let's see. The tires can be a little bit tricky at the end. Definitely, if you have like 14 laps to go with them, 15 laps as has been shown this circuit. So
right,
actually surprised at the tire wear, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been very high, hasn't it? And Bono Weiss's first sector was 0.2 slower than it has been in the previous few laps there on that particular lap sector. So now is it starting to drop away a little bit? And he had a bit of a moment as well out of the hairpin with a bit of a loss of grip. So maybe now those tyres, they won't be going off the cliff yet, but they're just starting to lose a little bit of that grip.
Definitely. Well, let's see how it reflects later on, because he's on the half of his stint right now. So he did have the good half, and Yuri is still in front. Reasonable margin there. And now it comes to the second half of his stint, where the tires obviously degraded a little bit.
Yeah, 5 laps to go now then. Morgan Moran has just got across the line, he's fine. And these two, so Weiss has got 5 laps to pass Toman. That's the situation. It's a 1:18.1 again, very consistent by Weiss. He's keeping it up at the moment. And managed to gain a lot back in the second and third sectors, which were solid. And after that bad, not so good first sector, so he has kept a decent lap time that time around. Just keep an eye on this. Can he catch Toman? Right, 17.5 for that one, so even slower stuff. So now he is making up for it at the moment, but those tyres are just a little bit slower now than they were 2-3 laps ago when he was doing fastest laps.
Carlos Martin did not finish. It shows he has to retire, so he's retirement number 9 actually. Really unfortunate.
And I didn't see any incidents. I'm wondering if that's a oh, hang on, yes. I think that's a disconnection because his car suddenly started strafing and then disappeared. So that's a disconnection, I think. It's not been a great day for that, but well, it's just been one of those days. Occasionally you're going to have them, unfortunately, and let's hope it doesn't happen for a long time to come, but this happens occasionally. So across the line this time, there are now 4 laps to go. Huis has got to get this done. He's 6/10 behind, but he's only got 4 laps and they're running out. And
yeah,
that
definitely.
time around, 1:18.4. So now the lap times are just starting to drop away a little bit.
He might do it this time around with the DRS. Might.
Let's see. Has he got enough? Well, Toman's he's keeping a gap, isn't he, down the straight, Toman? Is he going to pull out of the way? Nope. So not that time around for Huis.
Bono having a slight look though.
Well, if Yuri can keep him behind for a couple of laps, Huis's tyres, don't forget Toman's on the soft tyre, the harder of the 2 compounds, so he probably won't have to worry about tyres at all. Huis, if he's in the dirty air, and if he's in that position where he's on the super soft tyre, those tyres might start to go away a little bit easier. It might be a bit easier for Toman to defend in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, indeed. And as we just heard, Partington made a move on Jong Saxon successfully.
And Rob van Starkenburg is into 4th place. He's past Peter Berliak.
Wow. Good job from him.
I believe that was down at the hairpin. Right, that time through, Toman and Bono Huis pretty much identical lap times, and Huis on the softer of the 2 compounds. That advantage, it seems, has now gone. The lap
Really
times
weird
are pretty
situation
much
with Peter and Rob.
Yeah, it's interesting because Van Starkenburg.
Oh, he lost. Peter made a mistake on before the DRS zone. He almost lost the car, and it allowed Van Starkenburg to go through.
Right, so that's interesting.
Right where they are driving now.
Well, they do say there's never, and Berliak's having a go at coming back now. He won't get through that time round.
He leads him through. Bono is faster than you, Yuri. Bono is faster than you. He clearly lifted there. Yeah, with 3 laps to spare, man. I mean, it seemed like he was putting up a fight, you know, and then massive disappointment from my side of
well,
I'd
rather just move on because, to be honest, I'm going to say something I regret otherwise.
So the podium has been set, though. The only thing that doesn't change is the 2 precision cars. It all feels, unfortunately, with Precision and GT Omega, that our FSR is a little bit stage managed, and unfortunately, if you're wanting to increase viewers on FSR's YouTube, you're not going to do it with stuff like that. It's a load of rubbish, but there we go. Oh no, it's okay. This is just team order between Precision, but between Omega
other
Precision
teams
is
as well.
a little bit. Yeah, no, that's a little bit
It's just, in my view, it's just plain wrong.
Yeah, according to me as well, but that's maybe a thing we should discuss at another time. We got 2 minutes to go in this a hell of a weekend that has taken way too long, and well, at least we will see a nice, happy French guy at the end of it, I'm sure, with an 11-second gap towards Bono.
We certainly will, and ultimately speaking, Moran is going to think, well, he's 2nd again, despite starting 9th, but there you go, he's going to be 29 points in front, which now means that he will have over a race wins gap, which is good news. Van der Linden and John-Eric Saxon having a battle. Oh, Van der Linden's spun out. That's John-Eric Saxon who'd run off the track, and Van der Linden's now spun. So everybody's losing tyres. Well, they're all trying to the end, aren't they, on the tyres they've got, and it's not proving too easy because they've pitted a bit too early. And this is what we saw in a sprint race yesterday. Cars were going off towards the end and struggling because of the lack of tyre grip, and that's exactly the same now as Zuhat's Cabo runs completely off the track at turn 1 as well.
Yeah, and Bono is now just cruising towards 2nd place. He knows it's settled, and he doesn't want to take any.
Well, of course, he's got to make sure as well that he doesn't, because those tyres are going to be going off now. He's just got to make sure he doesn't push too hard on them.
As a stop-and-go penalty gets removed to the steward for Marcel van der Linden, so he can carry on without any hesitation.
Well, unfortunately, at this track, the game has been giving out some stop-and-go penalties for cuts when they've been clearly not gaining time at the exit of turn 1. When you run wide, and sometimes you actually lose quite a lot of time, but still get a warning for it. And of course, eventually warnings add up to stop and go penalties. But the director, being sensible and seeing that they haven't gained time, removes the penalty.
So here we go, last lap of the race.
Yeah, and Morgan Moran is coming through the final couple of corners. It's been another faultless drive for Morgan Moran. He had to do it 3 times, but at least he got there eventually. Morgan Moran wins in Hockenheim, and that's probably the longest waited win he's ever had.
Yeah, 1.5 hours. So exactly 1 minute 30.
With all the other times added together, though, it probably took about 3 hours.
And
so,
already the donuts coming out from Morgan. Look at that, control them well, like a mouse.
Even his donuts are perfect. It makes you sick, doesn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, right, well, Peter Berliak didn't manage to get Van Starkenburg back, so that mistake cost him, because he finished 5th in the end. Jack Keighley comes across the line in 6th. Good solid drive by Jack. We didn't see a lot of him, apart from when he was basically going at about 20 miles an hour to let Bono through, but other than that, didn't see a lot of him. Greco in 7th. Simoncic will finish 8th. 9th will go to Kostadinov, and 10th will be everybody else, because Mike Partington and John Eric Saxon were very close together last time we saw them. And I think Partington's going to hold on to it for a point, so very nice to Mike there. Finishes not far behind his teammate. Oh, Saxon's close though, isn't he? This is going to be interesting. Oh, I think Partington will hold on. He will indeed, and a good point for Mike Partington then for Aventus SimRacing. So both events are in the points.
Good. Right.
So that's great. Well, I'll tell you what.
So what a race it has been, right?
It has been a fantastic 3 races. Who's your driver of the day then, Chris, today?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I actually don't know. I should say Morgan Moran for taking the win and well, showing he didn't lose any focus during the break. But
he has just done
I
a
didn't
donut.
see any. I saw, but I don't have any driver of today who definitely sprung out or something. So I should say Morgan for having taken the win again. Great job from him. Yeah,
it's absolutely dry, and nobody else really. Everybody else was with fault at some point or another during that race. But Morgan Moran has just done a full 360 at I think it was about 200 kilometers an hour, and still kept it going in the right direction. With car control like that, I don't think anybody else is going to be able to touch him for the rest of this season. And just puts on a bit of a show for the viewers there. And but it's been an interesting race weekend, is one way of describing it. Epic is another. And downright crazy is probably a third. It's been a bit lunatics at the asylum today, Chris.
Yeah, it has been a nice race and a long one too. And well, a deserved win for Morgan and a nice podium for position with Bono and Yuri in that order. And I think a lot of people can look off to a nice race. Greco actually finishing 7th, which is awesome for having started last. So.
Yeah, so great stuff there. And me and Chris, well, we're not going to stick around for too long because you've heard quite enough of us today for one.
Let's wrap it up indeed.
Yeah, so we will see you
Morgan,
again.
by the way, actually saying he let Rod pass early on to get the RS. He says he did a Hamilton Alonso Canada.
Right, so that's why he did that earlier on. Well, of course, it's after turn 2, isn't it? So it doesn't take very long to get the DRS.
Indeed.
So yeah, I can understand why you might have done that. Well, anyway, it's in 2 weeks' time we will be back, and you definitely want to be there for that one because it's going to be Spa-Francorchamps, and everybody loves that circuit. It will be Belgium. We are so looking forward to it. So thank you to Chris for joining me again. It's been enjoyable.
Same to you, man.
And we will see you again in 2 weeks' time then for the Belgian FSR Grand Prix.